Literally, and as a balance, it's made by president and then I went the whole year secretary treasurer, not present. Along Council Grace representative not present. Shonto community governance, Mr. Grace president.
Just go to the roll call, then move to action.
Okay. Arlene Walker, Willis Tolkien, Oljato Chapter, Wallace Gates, Mr. Tracy, Carl Madison, Laura Tallis, Septic Chapter, Dollar Billy, Loretta Black, the Sullivan Allegiance, and G. 3 invocation, Sullivan Ali, 4 review and adopt agenda, 5 review and approval of last meeting minutes, January 3rd, 2026, regular meeting, 6 reports, government leadership, A, Dr. Winaiker, nomination president, B, Mrs. Michelle McCoy, nomination as president, C, Mrs. Crystal McCoy, nomination speaker, D, Mr. Herman Daniel, chair, nomination delegate, E, Ms. Berman, Navajo County District 1 supervisor, F, Ms. Judy B. Gilbert, County District 4 supervisor, G. Robert Lott, Jr., LCA 2, Mr. Fenn, Jr. Nomination Council. H. Joan Gray, NOPVP 1 agency representative. 7 reports. NOST Regional Chapter President. A. Naatsis'aan Chapter President. B. Oljato Chapter President. C. Oljato Community Governance President. D. Septic Chapter President. A. Presentations presenters. A. Deputy Executive Director. B. Speaker. Adopts. B. Citizen updates. B. Surrey. D. Capital Project Management Department, Michelle Peterson. D. Department of Acquisition Director, Michelle B. E. Updates in the gym, and to water project, Pacific Charlie. G. Navajo just Baldwin. A. Rural Addressing Project Update, Institutional Theater Research. And Bill Supervisor, CDBG, Block Ranch, Myers, J. It's CDBG block grant repeatedly. 9 resolution action items. 1 resolution for NOST 2026-004-001 TBD. 10 space A. July 2026 9 a.m. T. SB at Septic Chapter 11 at Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, for reading that into the record. With that, let's go ahead and call for motion. Motion. Willie, second, or so on. Comments, questions, modifications to the agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'd like to request to re-edit or report under number 7. For District 2 grazing, District 8 sheep share. But I don't see Laura here.
Okay. 7E will have District 2 grazing. Then okay. Resolutions numbers 1, 2, and 3. The proposed agendas were provided, sent via email, as well as they are in front of you. So we will go ahead and add those to the agenda. Number 1 is going to be the supporting. Do you have number 1? Number 1 again is going to be the supporting and confirming the appointment in relation to the Napikiat Marshall Gray Eyes to the Black Mesa Review Board as Shonto Chapter Representative for a term of 4 years. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be supporting the Painted Desert Power LLC project and the payment in lieu taxes. NNC 0014-26 for the benefit of the NOST communities in Navajo Nation. Number 3 is going to be approving the endorsement of Jonathan Imnez for the House of Representative office for Arizona Congressional District number 2. Those are currently the proposed agendas provided to you, or proposed resolutions that were provided. Any other items that need to be added? Okay, with that, motioning party, Chanela, do you agree to add those to the agenda?
Yeah.
Priscilla? Okay. With that, we have the consensus of the motioning parties. We'll go ahead and move on to call for the vote. Madam Secretary, you go ahead and call the roll.
Willie Gray. Alex Fitzini,
Yes.
Tamitzia Tracy.
Yes.
Viola Madison, yes. Robert Black Jr. Roland Small Canyon,
Agree.
Della Curley, or
Abstain.
Benali,
Yes.
Jam Sinigini.
She's online.
So that is 8 votes, 0 opposed, and 1 abstain. Marcia, how would you like to vote to add on the 3 resolutions?
In favor?
So that is a total of 9 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstain.
Okay, with that, approving and adoption of the agenda has been approved. 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstain. Moving on to the last meeting minutes. Council, you were provided the last meeting minutes last time, so I don't know how you guys wish to proceed, but we can go ahead and do a overview of that if the council wishes to proceed with that. See here. Robert? Okay, with that, we have a motion to approve the agenda, minutes. We have a second? Alex?
Why is that?
Okay, comments, questions regarding the, minutes?
Who second that motion?
Alex? Okay, no comments, questions, moving on, call for the vote, all those in favor, raise your, or Madam Secretary, you're gonna call for the vote.
Willie Gray Eyes,
Four.
Alex Fitzini, Robert Black,
Green.
Roland Small Canyon,
Green.
Tamitzia Tracy,
In favor?
Viola Madison in favor, Priscilla Benali, Jim Sinigini,
Yes.
Marcia Gray Eyes,
Robert. Move on.
okay, Della Curley,
Robert.
Robert Black,
Green.
so that's 1,
Nolan. Oh, you already did the.
Green
Nine
on
in-
this side as well.
okay, 10 in favor, 0 opposed, and Dellard,
Abstain.
1 abstain.
Okay, with that, we have a approval of the agenda or meeting minutes. That was 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstain. Moving on to the reports, government leadership. Dr. Lou Van Nygren. First call. Second call. Third call, moving on. Vice President Michelle Montoya, first call. Second call. Third call. Madam Crystalline Curley, speaker, first call. Second call. Third call. Mr. Herman Daniels. First call. Second call. Third call is Fern Benali, Navajo County District One Supervisor. First call. Second call. Third call. Moving on, Judy B. Gay, Coconino County District Four Supervisor. First call. Second call. Third call. Moving on, Robert Black, LDA to Herman Daniels.
First call.
You have the floor, 10 minutes.
Vice Chair, Secretary, Dr. Fisher from the North Region, I don't know. President of Power and here for the meeting. Thank you for being here. I'd like to just make it real quick. I sent Dillard the detailed version of the report. And also yesterday, I passed it out to the Naatsis'aan chapter officials over there. But for Shonto said that he was going to log on to return today to do the reporting then. But I guess something where he's not able to log on. But I just made me want to go over some of the council actions that were taken and some that were or some that are pending approval. As long as you get the native action plan, March 19th and 28th, the agreement to discuss and guess our review. They modified the native action plan. I guess it's also known as DAP, DAP. As you get, it looks at addressing and prioritizing issues that are facing the nation, and they reviewed the progress and plan next steps. The focus was including the youth support, mental health services, faster response to missing persons, and a new plan expected by September 2026. Now currently on March 25, 2026 nomination, council opposed the SAD State of America, which you act on Donald Trump proceeding plan. The nomination does not support this act because it makes voting harder, especially for our elderly. The leaders, they want to protect our voting rights and improve access. Just an announcement that the nomination council also observed the retirement of Mr. Gregson, Mentee. He retired after almost 40 years of service. He helped bring water, electricity, and other services to the Richlands. On March 31st, 2026, there was a meeting that took place at RSB, and this is regarding the mine lease, still under review. The mine provides many jobs and important revenue. More updates are expected soon. The mine lease, the FY 2027 budget update. The nation expects about 301 million in revenues with 218 billion available for budget. The leader said capital planning is on March 30th, pipeline product approval. Project that was being pushed by Congress, they approved to move forward, but it must meet environmental rules and also agree with chapter that were done. The nomination council will also March 29, 2026, honor the Navajo veterans who served in the Vietnam War and thank them for their service. March 26th, the uranium cleanup update. Our council, our leaders met with EPA about cleaning up all uranium mines. It said the nomination might be fully involved and protect community health on our side to them. On March 28th, there was a Navajo Hopi Land Commission leadership meeting. They continue to work on grazing permits and land planning. The challenge that they have is they include the drought and delays and found 9.7 million funds is available. I think it's just combined health like this, they'll sit with the land. Fire department safety, the balance. So the fire department, for more staff and equipment, the Law and Order Committee, we scheduled public hearings to begin in April to, discuss some of the safety laws. On the emergency funding, a $6 million, ordinance or legislation that were passed by the council and then were signed by the president, aid to help the chapter respond to emergencies and other services to, address the in case of emergency and need. So I thought, that's just the council. So, I can send the more detailed version of it. If they want, anybody wants a copy, I'll just send it out. So, I was really just outlines a lot more specific detail in each of the areas that I talked about. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Comments, questions? Thank you, the reports. Okay, moving on. Joan Green. First call, second call, third call,
Yeah, Bennett.
10 minutes.
Josh Reagan, yeah, pretty cheap in the strong hole and a bunch of things. But I think that should shade off and come that another next son should or shade down on Sunday. It's my 10 minutes up in. Time. So, put on there, there's things go, Dr. Brunei brings office of the president, but not show Western agency. Aaron's also have the immediate, on Western agency on 9 chapters, with the NG, but not, interaction with the issue. I don't attend a lot of the chapter meetings, but I do a lot of the interaction with our constituents that are on the ground, in their local assessments, and when they reach out, I try to take care of anything from home side, at least again, just the basic needs and essentials and the challenges that they face from burial assistance to home renovations, into infrastructures and so on and so forth. So, and again, these are families that have fallen through the cracks that come to Dr. Nyron's office or that reach out to the representatives directly because they feel like they've lost all hope in our government, whether it's at the upper level of council, Navajo Nation President's office, as well as the local government. So my job is to reinstill hope in these families into the Navajo community. The agenda has and then that was on the go they care for how had the shadows and go by that means that some of the challenges that I'm facing currently as I'm making visits with our relatives out on the Tender Nation is one thing is when they're applying for homestead, this is one of the things that I'm really challenging. So I'm very thankful. We do have some leadership from raising options here in attendance today is that our elderly and our young children, well, just anyone in general, I guess some of the human those are requesting for compensation for their signatures. And I really feel that that needs to be addressed. I've come across several families that don't have the funding on top of the homestead leases that the art clearance and all that needs to be covered. And then some grazing officials are, requesting for signature, feeding for their signatures every day. Letting them know that in the policy and procedures manual of the Navajo Nation land department homestead lease process, and I usually have a couple of those, and I've given most of those out as far as educating our people that those things are and should be free to the need or the is and on shipnet, the narrow and teacher that they know, additional, but they weren't able to share any names or anything with me, but which I'm okay with, you know, as long as the intervention and the guidance was there for our people. Chicago, Shonto, reiterate that to sort of raising officials that even possible. And you know, a lot of it is internal now, for some of the grazing, excuse me, not the grazing, the home site leases that I'm doing follow-ups and pushing through, you know, the challenges that I'm starting to see through the nation. Well, at the program level of, you have to do data sheet, request for this, request for that, scan it in, send it in, not that should be, no, and it really hinders what I need to do for our people, especially if I'm like up in Paiute Mesa or Paiute Canyon, and there's no services, and I don't have, when I text it out or send it out via my phone, it's much easier. So that's one of the things that I ran into. I think a lot of it comes from me doing a lot of my follow-ups. I don't wait for programs to come follow up with me. I do a lot of the follow-ups 2-3 times a week of the programs and entities that I'm working with. Every day, what's that? Of course, for a lot of the documents I take into Little Rock, given that Tuba City's land office is only open once a week or whatever the case may be, or short staff. So into and very diligently working closely with headquarters and, you know, the 2 district levels here in Kienta and to the city service area. One of the challenges that I've seen as of now is the light of Navajo is taking a while for it to, you know, go through, for the families to go through their phases. My next option is, do I start recommending these families while they wait for light of Navajo to come through? Do I start making recommendations to other solar entities, solar organizations? And, you know, that was one of the things that I was actually honoring while they wait for connections. I don't know if they have, train of thought there. But yeah, I am getting a lot of people that are waiting permit, energy, but you know, if they're going by phases, and it really, you know, people want immediate energy. And matter of fact, I've met a couple families up in Navajo Mountain area where I spend a lot of my time. It seems like I love Navajo Mountain. And I ran into a couple of families that are still using ice chests and dry ice. And yeah, a son and child, Anita, she actually bless and you know. Did I show she young us me? I said, chance, not really young, you know. A while ago, you get emotional when you go visit these homes. And that's why I'm so passionate about the job that I do, knowing that, you know, I see these firsthand. I see them firsthand go on that. Oh, it's not now. It's Edson. But on the honor them. I said, I don't want to go to the case, but just there, so. Excuse me, but I am honored to do the job that I'm doing because, you know, I feel like I do very well. The education, you know, yes, to connect with our people as well as, you know, the English language. So I'm able to connect and comprehend and advocate for our elderly that live in the most remote areas. So the challenge is that NTUA have enough energy sources to, you know, help our Native families, the Net families that live in the most remote areas to get power temporarily through the grid while they wait, the light of Navajo will come through. And then the other one is, bathroom additions. I'm not too sure what the status is on the bathroom additions at the chapter level. Hey, if, not it's every elderly is not they have to go outside to the bathrooms and they, you know, throughout the night or whatever the case may be. wild dogs and, animals that live in the mountains. And, coyotes and so on and so forth, all the nested that, I'm hoping that, so that will work with, with their chat, with their bathroom additions and, connections are made with, whether it's NTUA or, just some type of services provided to our elderly families, adults, school-aged children, the age are aids pushing makeshift showers that I'm really concerned about our people across now. So those are like the challenges that I face with our people is, does NTUA have enough solar panels to provide for these families? It takes about another 2 months, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I talk about communication and transparency, I stand solely very strong on that, and I think it's about time we start looking into other energy sources while our families wait for Light of Navajo, because I don't think that NTUA has enough, solar panels to address our native people across Navajo. So if I get is other but I should not we did actually what we did a dollars about a job by it. My son don't share on the list. Don't let the pay the energy some sort of in okay, we should change the system, the bottom, it double energy, and not down, the generational homes, they energy. If the now and never, they are cheap budget and never, where the infrastructures, the hello energy, they go. The Navajo home site is in log on the you can't be each other, ito ay audit that chichinet ay ko na it's not chapter official good listening I found it banda snack on from my son don't chiche out of the dozen though les never don't really kala she would say us though I shouldn't some of it no. If I go I apologize. Excuse me, I've been in contact with all these elderly across Navajo and, I understand what the local government is facing. Of course, that the generation in Atlanta, that the when they face the attention in the generation, I always tell our elderly, shigo na kashke, shigo jiana hata, shigo na kashke, the show, and that's how passionate I am about providing the services that I do for our people. I just lost my train of thought, and I think my 10 minutes is up. I'll just leave it at that. But I guess I can connect with each of the officials as I go along, and but more so the NTUA infrastructures that really need help in that area. So I'll just leave it at that. Otherwise, I'm just going to go on and on about our elderly and our children in the most rural and the most remote areas. So I'll just connect with the officials as we move along. Okay. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Not only though, Mr. Chair, so since any though, Naatsis'aan it, not anything, secret, I can then up the viewership. Thank you for being here. Shonto, audience, and I saw Connie, thank you for your report, it's great. I mean, thank you for bringing those up. Share them on Connie, Connie. That's what we see, yeah, hey. We visit people one-on-one. And we, I mean, as chapter official, they live out there too. They're familiar with, that's where they're from. But, I mean, oh, Taja, oh, nice. Although you're not now. It's real. Acho que pensa ver. Razão tida ver kato years and the earlier seal no, it's millionaire to leave it. No. So the solar panel, any solar panel, what we see as grazing official is a lot of these solar panels, but I believe we have an expert here. Most of them, the only issue is the batteries, yeah. And I know you have to maintain the batteries to keep it up to the par. I don't know. Another issue is roads. On the, no wonder my bad. Basically, such as this, people that live in the most remote areas, but it's teeny, like Kajol, and there's Alia, with Koya, teeny, I saw Sedi, my Kozochaya, I said, well, now. I mean, people live down in the canyon, they drive that road every day, but they don't complain. I mean, if you complain long enough, then you don't want to complain anymore because nobody listens about that. And I mean, thank you for bringing those to our attention. You've done. I don't. I'll give with the veterans. I know District 2 is not doing that, trying to get compensation for traveling out to homes for home site leases. And the good side of it is home site lease regulations being amended. I took a look at it, if you know, portion. And it sounds like through these amendments, they're going to remove out of it. But this might be a heads up to the chapters. I think the more involvement from the chapters is coming soon. Maybe Club C and I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it's being amended by I know NNDA they have it. I don't know how it's going to move forward. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
May I comment on that?
Priscilla.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. My God, that's exactly what I did, exactly what they are doing. That's exactly what I did all week. We went to NTUA headquarters, the base of the hookup city to the no, us city Kilgon. We talked about it, and then our chapter made a list, pushing 40 something. And Tuesday I got there, and then, well, of course, they're like, can you do it? She got me on this side. I said, yeah, I can. So I went back to the chapter, I got the list. Other day, came out of one section of Shaka sent from they keep us on there. What you said, I actually went into their home, went into their area. Like you said, I got emotional. And I found kids in there, kids behind me, they gave up. They just resorted into drinking. I came to one to a home, but taking on NOST. Yeah, other, shouldn't be seasons along the I look at his home. It's about the case, and where were we as a chapter official? So I recommend him about us, go out and visit. The next of Lago, make that part of your connection. Only Dicey come into the meeting, I did bundle, I don't Winter Rock. I joined it now, Winter Rock's just not a meeting, but yeah. This week I went to Winter Rock twice. And I have to see later of my meeting. Oh, but it's the husband. It's the husband. But the husband, I know she's the husband. I document everything. I'm just called on so much. But anyway, the thing is, I talk about solar, and then I just understand the solar that I have me. And NQA is charging for them. So what's the vessel they should need that? One guy that is half blind, he has solar panel, and he's paying $80 a month. Out of another one, non-stop, they have a bigger solar panels. And we live in a two house. He said, yeah, there's 160 a month. And I live in a house with 4 bedrooms, I just so much. I saw stuff, my electricity and water is like, I'm 50. And I had like everything, TV and everything to show. And this guy, Ethan, 160, that is not harm for them. The snow hunting and it's just really, I'm very emotional too. It's very sad for family to let the and I'm not, I'm really proud from what I did, like everything. The younger people are coming back. They have modules, they have trailers, they have home site lease and everything. Wow, the Shanghai are really encouraging them. And they're pushing, but our, CPH, one person lived there, that person deceased, they took over, but it's home site lease, but not up there. And that home site lease is just ridiculous. I mean, like I said, I went to Window, I'm always over there at that home site lease office. You know, with their agency, we have no record of why do we call headquarters? We have foundation of them. All of the documents should be coming in here, and you have technology, we've got all the computers, our everything's a lot of shit. So when I get back over here, those signs, those, caution. So this time it's open, they give me a name, so I came back to the city. But the thing is, I don't have site lease, non-legal. Slash. From 1950 to 2017, that was $1 a year. After 2017 to current, it jumped up to $12 a year. So I paid mine since I was coming from a JUA. Nowadays, love it, but now who mentioned I don't have a document by me. So I paid them $55. So, and their Thursday for that emergency. But they can help out with them. They're big. They got some now, I don't want to say it, but it's not. They did a lot of this and they gave us the dollar amount, but I don't want to say it. So maybe and the need. Why would that help our with that one to get the home site lease and survey? There are numbers. You get all these pickup of NQA. a lot of them, after like, walk around the week. And concept the car, or you have to be concept stuff, that they're there. Service, so basically, the emergency money is there. I'm gonna use it to help out with those people who are in need, because homicide is a very big issue, and I found that that's why I said they were, I have a lot to say on our chair, after meeting issue. About homicide is, it's so confusing, since it went up to $12 a year now.
I want to say,
Willie,
Thank you, here, and, like, that the public. So, now, the ones, wait, it's that they got need for living. And that's able. I know it's that. They know, and I know this, on some case, the recommendation there. Homicide, hopefully, and there's all need now. You look at the court cases. Court cases lead to national churches. And I think what short cases. They're overloaded stuff. I think, what's it? Or these outside these building permits, farm permits, they're all in public. Many of them. Of course, I think, maybe the bottom of the home title beneficiary. Is it part of that thing? That way that you don't have to go to attorneys, mountains of attorneys to produce all kinds of legal requirements. But it's here. It's unnecessary. That's a people. But that's the recommendation. Now Vermont made it, it's to put beneficially on the land use, land use leases. Five cases. The other one, not so great, I don't be tired to see them. I don't email to Mr. Patero, chairman of the road presentation committee. RDC requested for access to writing to N6310. It's been over 30 days. I don't think done that. A higher base up on unfavorable. That system is used for health delivery of senior citizens. And so on with the residents. What else about people? Hey, to maintain, there's no agreement between NDOT and San Juan County Road Department. Oh, there's a total backup maintenance service available. A good job, of course. I for today, today, for not so that if we're entitled to do that, then our government should be able to flex some muscle and dish out some service, at least service money. The reason why we request access to the right of way is it's under Navajo transportation right of way. I'm shipping it up to Mississippi, no, to hire a maintenance for that system so we can contract. And the only way we can get a private contractor into that system is to secure a couple of right of way from the appropriate agency. Wait, I see. I don't got announcement. And in my report, I'd like to comment on it, which is senior citizen. You should be not senior citizen now. Now, there's a lot of deficiency that facility. Apparently, central office or the agency office basically made a decision to reassign Oljato staff, Shonto to Ts'ah senior citizens staff. They're all converged on a daily basis from Oljato to Navajo. Put down because safety, food safety. Matter of fact, that's one of the discussions that we made. And what's that? Up to the day, or I don't know how long. Food safety happening overcrowded in the confined area. Now, is probably less than the area of this room right here. Of course, there's at least 8 to 10 people on a daily basis to prepare food and to serve. I don't know if these people are traveling overtime. Are they considered for compensation? Is budget for Navajo man senior citizen being enlarged to accommodate? Those are the questions that we raise. Don't maybe you can add the city will be heard.
Well, quick, along with his, like thinking, or jet point like now, think four in the morning, then on the other side, the clock on the gig. It's 6 o'clock in the evening, I thought it started at 1. So, I just want to add on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yep.
Primary sponsor. If you have, I should not know just a quick response to the solar panels of NTUA from my son. I know that what the price differences are fluctuating, and I also looked into Navajo Power. And on the what's that with Navajo Power, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir. I know that based on the rates that the elderly or homeowners will get, that's how the the funding is allocated is to my understanding under Navajo power and plus the expert will eventually probably go over that. With NTUA, I've been, I feel like know a little bit more with NTUA. With NTUA, yes, they pay $80, we're taxing about $84, $86, a set rate. And with NTUA, I know that, one of the leaders had mentioned the battery, the longevity of the battery. NTUA, every quarter, they go out to these residents and they do maintenance work, for the, residents that have, solar panel. So that's one of the things that was mentioned to me that's included in their contract and they're able to troubleshoot it. I think the main offices and a lot of the, parts they do have on hand headquarters, so they're able to troubleshoot and address those, right away. Families should be able to have any, issues with that. And the only reason why I know is I'm able to revisit these families that have solar panels, and that was one of the things that, I've learned is they're able to troubleshoot and, make those adjustments. If need be, when, homeowners do come into situations with solar panels, and that's through NTUA. And the other one is with the home site lease, as far as probate. That was one of the things that I did mention to Mr. Halona, Mike Halona, is, a lot of these families that are trying to get, past the probate, when they get into situations where probate, like for instance, I have one, individual whose spouse had passed away, and she doesn't have the funding to go through the probate office, and she was like, you know what? They're all calling she got whole, actually, not they speak, but, if this individual does that, it really limits her to get any type of assistance from Navajo Nation, because she doesn't want to go through the probate process. On Yeho or, probate done, did you know? We go through this brief cycle of losing our spouse again, why can't we just take the death certificate of our loved ones to the home site office? And that would make it easier for us not to provide any more information. I know. So that was one of the things that I did talk to Mr. Salona about, as far as probate and the, how much money it costs for families to go through that process. The other one is with NDOT. I did again send the resolutions, as well as, just an ongoing resolution to the concerns, Mr. Willie, to Mr. Tom Portero, as well as Mr. Totichi Reggie, or Ferguson Totichi, with NDOT. And I am communicating with them to see when they're going to be coming out to address the Pioneer Canyon. I have been on that since, it was brought to my attention, and since I've, toured that area several times to do home deliveries as well. In regards to 6310, I will also again bring to, their attention, with the, service agreement that you're requesting for, sir. I can circle back around over the 90 days, shift that over, give the right of way to Navajo Mountain so they can do their own contracting out. And I do see, the emergencies, as well as, families traveling on it, when they have to carry water down there or take water down into the canyon. So I've seen.
All the water.
Oh, I'm hauling water down into that area, though. I did meet with families on the other side of the canyon that also, are experiencing medical situations, and the thought is that there's anything, that is an, emergency, it would make it difficult for vehicles to go down in that area. So as soon as I get information back from Tom Portero and others at NDOT, well as Mr. Ferguson Totichi with NDOT, who's the supervisor for the Western Agency in your area. So once I get information back, and then I'll let you know on that. Is that okay with you, sir? Though, senior citizen centers, I have gone over to Navajo Mountain Senior Citizen Centers during lunchtime to see what it looks like. Just observation from the outside, meeting it. Oh, it's not Oljato. By the time I'm coming back from wherever it is, like Page or to the city, I witnessed that myself as well. The Queen should not be dead. And one day I was coming back from Oljato, and I did see one of the senior citizen vehicles finally going into one of the residential areas about 2:30, 3 o'clock. So I did address that situation with the headquarters, not headquarters, but executive director in regards to the overcrowding. One of the other things that I also did mention is Navajo Mountain and other senior centers are receiving new equipment, but they don't have maintenance to install those. So I know Navajo Mountain is currently using one stove with one working oven, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 1 or 2 working ranges, and that's it. And a brand new stove sitting off to the side for volumes and that's on, I'm doing everything that I can to help alleviate and address some of these issues. Moving forward, I can, be as adamant and as persistent as I can with the follow-ups with the Division of Health Department. And I know that they're also experiencing some of these, issues that, overcrowding, it leads to internal, I guess, frustration, of it. Hashing Sabasa, the Shin, that needs to be in though has any that should have been but only to the nest, so audit now, have meetings and that later on. Advocating the elderly, but we leadership and little or the no meetings or during lunchtime or teaching on not jogging or observe just be of the Kahari down signing that Michigan I also the program manager in Tuba City, I don't know if she's relaying any of this information with her office as well as the executive director. Is she going out of our foundation and shape settled? I observed it all document that they stop. I hope that answers the questions that I don't give you. Thank you. So, I, on the homicide cases, we have, 2 here, raising committee, representative. One thing that I found out and, at the office, when they are into the city, when you get the homicide lease thing on, I mean, there's a bunch of pages. Out of those typing or after you do Xerox, and those wordings and the dots and the missing. So I have to really ask a question about that. One homicide lease says joint. Those verbiage are very important. It says joint. If you have your homicide lease that has joint on there, that means you can't carry it over. And it has to go to probate. It expires. So whoever gets in it, have to go through court and get it open again. Nana, mine, mine says inherits, heir and inherits. I don't ask, why is that, Sheena? For my homicide lease, I can carry it over. I can carry it over. So those verbiage are very important on those contracts. If it says joint on there, once you die, it's gone. The person who's coming up has to, it went to probate, and the person who's coming up, they have to go to court, even though that person is still alive too. So the verbiage, so how do we those on those contracts, the verbiage itself makes a big difference. A co-agent of the husband are people. And so, one couple of words
it moves a whole different situation. Hey, that's what I found out. And, only picked it up, don't know about it on this. Area, then all the Pixar that's me and they choose Xerox after Xerox and they pull it out. Letter as the missing the basic hour. So I just said, why can't you revise that to show that it's always in the system. It's always in the system, it's just like that, you know. But anyway, that's what I want to bring up then. How can we just put it as, take out the joint and air and hair this of the cobble? She saw it, it'll be easy for everybody. Because we have a guy, she covered the cobble, this nostril, the mini. And once they're told go to court, oh my gosh, they get really mad and upset. So, yeah.
Okay, last,
Thank you.
last one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ted, I don't introduce Michelle. My name's Roland Smolking. Stop Keros at the not that Naatsis'aan, Shonto, Bashchin. This line is a chill, Tapane, Ts'ah, Oljato, Nasha. The Kodo, Miss Green. When we first, when we were doing a orientation, we had a representative from President Nixon's office. And the person that said the president's goal is 2,000 home site lists. Next year's goal will be 6,000 home site lists. So every one of these home site lists equals an acre, 1 acre. So it's equivalent to 2,000 acres. It's 3,000.125 square miles. So 3.18 of a mile. To 3.18 of a mile. The next goal is 6,000 home site lists. Now it's equivalent to 9 miles, 9.3 of a mile. And then another 9.37 of a mile. So almost 10 miles, 10 square miles. So the hip evident, I'm looking at it. Because these are customary areas. The reason why I'm talking about this is I think chapters had to look at all these land controls and home site lists, and it's going to eventually reduce the sheep units on these permittees. That's where we come in. Show the list like Jim. Well, it might be best for chapters to do land controls for community development, where it's not like prime land. Something to think about, actually, only check officials on Finland. So it does subtract from the rangeland. That's a lot of edge stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on over to Naatsis'aan chapter president.
Other said part of this organization said, I don't know that's not academic, Shonto the beast. That's the type of thought. Nothing, legal. We can help. We can witness and say, hey, we have to do this. The only other two other items that I heard was is the voting. water right, birthright start. I have Darcy and then upon there. The here now, the holy Trinity, it's in Shitty and they not on any job. Then before, now I made the whole one. That's all I should do. But they're playing you should do it. I hope the Supreme Court did vote it down, but I know that will continue to run if the president is still there. Or down to run. So we need to continue by local government to respond to those actions. The other thing is the amendment to Title Navajo Nation, Title 26. And in the years that it's on there, was the Navajo agency for the table lead and all responsible. But that, that makes that happen. Office of Navajo Government Development. In collaboration with the Navajo Board of Elections Supervisor. Without having us filter the information there, like to filter the information to the local government. The intent is to do away with LGA. Totally. Are you ready to go forward? That kind of governance system. Since you're still looking at how to work within LTA. And then I don't need that. Maybe outside of Paris and view the document. But sure, that's only. Instead of there's only what two up here, you see, one at first grade, the other one over at Naatsis'aan. And that's all it took to. There's less than 100 people, or less than 150 people present. What's our population? Way you're not middle. Other Yadam, the I don't know how many. Yeah. Way, I don't know, but what do you guys think? It's chapter. You can do your own decision. Or to not yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Shonto. Comments, questions? Okay, moving on, Oljato, chapter president. Vice president. You have to report.
I will do the report. So as far as
Okay.
My community Oljato chapter, we are working, Joan and I are working closely with about 10 of the constituents. About 10 of them, most of them are at the stages of the survey and archaeological clearance. So that is coming on its way. On March 8th, we had a UNTF and an NRF. There were On March 8th of 2026, Oljato chapter had a regular meeting. During that regular meeting, there was a total of 19 resolutions. Constituents. Out of the 19, 17 of them requested for a complete home. 2 of the constituents requested for renovation. So that's a total of 20. So out of the 19, only 2 of the applicants made the agenda for the UNTF and the NRF board on March 20th. So I thought that was interesting that only 2 applicants made the UNTF and the DAC board meeting on March 20th. As for March 30th, we met at the NTUA headquarters with the NOST regions. For the Oljato, we have 5 constituents for the power lines. In addition to that, there is a prospective power line project that is going to happen on the northwest of Train Rock. Known as the Parks Village. I think that's going to take about a year to 1.5 years to get the right of way. A resolution has been advised with among the elected officials for the final revision, followed by a 3-month follow-up on the updates for Rady projects. On April 3rd, the Oljato members met with Michelle Peterson, and she updated the administration, the elected officials in regards to chapter heads, since that is our primary project in Oljato. My question to the administration was the location of the land withdrawal for the 4 acres. And that 4 acres is located on the south parking lot of the Welcome Center. And around that parking lot, there's going to be an additional 16 acres. So I'm at this point where I have not located the resolutions for the 4 acres. So as far as I know, according to the meeting, we're still in the beginning stages of the chapter house. That's the update. That'll complete my report.
Thank you, Secretary. Comments, questions? Okay. Shonto, Community Governance President, Marcia, do you have a report? Or
Chair, she had the vice chair, those dated, secretary, all that, members of the, J2 Shonto chapter, and then also the attendants, I just have, the major ones that I wanted to, I guess, expound down or report on. So, the launch AKA, my, I guess, experience and being out there among the public people that I know, first thing they ask me is, when is the hotel going to open up? So, right now, the lease that was negotiated by Division of Economic Development and between, I guess, the operator that was selected, Navajo locality, they finally made it out of the Department of Justice office or department for their review. So imagine now it's going over to the president for signature. So once that happens, go ahead and triggers the approval of the franchise license by Wyndham Corporation for hospitality. So so hopefully mid-May or somewhere around there, we're looking at potentially doing the soft opening. April be job fair that he's not on the chain that he's done hospitality. So, I think it's on April 10th. So people that are interested in, I guess, seeking employment there, which should show up at the hotel site, hotel site. So. We're also looking at updating the road maintenance plan currently in place with NDOT. We had 2 meetings with Navajo Divisional Transportation Planner, Margie McGay. So she extensively went over the makeup of how the roads jurisdictions are going these days and the funding and potentially what's going to be coming down the line, like in terms of dividing up the operations where it's going to be regionally based, meaning not going to I think that based on some of the planning that's going on and allocating road maintenance yards of the Navajo chapter, including Shonto. So either they the direction, it's, I guess, going along. Don't need it. I need to legally the 30th on Monday with NTA staff, Jay McCrary and Welachie, along with Bishop Beacon and J2, and that's regarding the legislation passed back and Russell Begay and Johnson legislation had allocation of Maple Power extensions for these 2 chapters and that legislation. So in cost saving, we give another reallocation that you need to go. We need another resolution to in order to put it to effect. That's net though. Other than to indicate who we can recommend or select to have these extensions go to, and it had a certain criteria that we have to meet with, I guess, home site leases for people that we're going to be recommending. So 3 months papers are not cut out needed. So we're back there and get some mirror list to see what we have, and then if we can't use it all in our chapter, then we have to disperse it with the other 2 chapters like J2 and Inscription House. So so that legislation should be drafted and make sure caution absolutely. I don't know. We're currently or recently we reprioritized our ICIP listing to indicate that our project's priority has been modified to where it will be Tall Mountain infrastructure development. So your water line, power line. So I guess, but they need to, I guess, be in line with the agreement that was passed with the BH to seek funding for that area. So, even the shade that it's also let it go. To seek an allocation to finish setting up our business management commission office, then also to provide an allocation for the staff that's going to be managing the office. So we've been looking at drafting those legislations, and we're seeking some technical assistance from staff in the Winter Rock area. So let's see clean to see if we can get that in motion. Another we might be also be looking at is also an allocation restaurant development, but that's still talking stages. Also, we're preparing for economic development strategic planning session. We were funded with just transition funds from the government, national government, to promote our area in terms of economic development. So we're looking at going to Moab to have this strategic session to, look at how they've, I guess, gone through the development of their area, that we this our so we're changing our location to be at Goodings Lodge. That will go the View Hotel, so, Haji, Bobby, we're gonna be, having the sessions over there, and currently Delegate Daniels is, helping us to see if we can secure the facilities and the days that we want to do it. Lately, trying to provide opportunities for our chapter leadership to be familiar with our nomination laws and ordinances and operations, so that, the strategic planning secretary shows us loyal that kids, me Marcia, so that I let on what the stuff out, so be clear, tell them that this is the vision and operations that are going on, that's what we're that we be aware of, what's all in play, for government's operations, so they understand that on that issue, but it shiny will go down, they know what it entails. So that we don't just over when they're send resolution or letters, say, but they need a sort of, I think a lot of it falls back on us to do all the groundwork that needs to take place in order to get these things ready. So that the council and then also the executive branch to be working with this. So Joe, all a bunch of that kid. You know that Joe going to better the best. So actually that letter. I didn't need it. I think there's a lot of opportunities there for us to do, but take it. I think we're trying to see bring to the chapter, but have a better understanding without really taking a whole lot of their time going through a lot of needs to be done to provide about opportunity. So you don't doubt that and shit us. That'll be my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Okay, moving on, Tuppican chapter president. So I, as the chapter president, Tuppican will provide a report. So currently right now, our priorities is trying to get the senior center up and running. We have been working diligently, planning, trying to go up the flagpole, get everybody in there. So we've been working diligently on that. We have completed our land withdrawal process, and we want to thank the representative of PVP. Let's push that. Joan, thank you. And also, we have completed warehouse. We did do our warehouse a while back. But we still have a couple items to finish. What we're doing is transferring some of our ARPA funds to finish out the electrical portion of that. We are also working on the project for our transfer station right now. We're working on getting the funds withdrawn so we can have the transfer station. Currently, right now, the proposed site is be across from the inscription house and clinic. That little dirt lot that's out there. It's currently the proposed site of where we're going to be putting the transfer station. We're also in talks with the designer right now with doing our community chapter house, our new chapter. So we're working on getting that done, as well as seeking funding for that. We have finished a rule addressing, which I have already reported out a while back, but we have also completed our rule addressing signage. And so as you guys are driving up 98, you'll see some TBK roads, Navajo roads, also up on Route 16 as well. You'll see all that. We have completed over 400 addressed homes throughout our community. So these items are being sent over to them. We have our chapter meeting coming up next week, Monday. So have planning meetings this Monday, this coming Monday. And, we did attend the meeting with, all representatives with NTUA. We had selected 40+ people on our list, and I think the efforts of my fellow chapel officials working diligently and getting those prepared. I think we have a total of 17 sort of project ready already. So we're working on that. And I think that's all I got from my report. Questions? Sure. Good.
I know, and Sunday, one of the recent meetings, I think it was a District 2 meeting, there was a lady that brought up to the city, that transfer station, well, once they start paying, you'll see more trash out of the regional. And I think your project will help. HBK is another matter. Once it gets going.
So with that transfer station, we're working on design portions of it right now. We do have a conceptual drawing. What's that? Replacing people should. It should be real well received on our area. We came with we've developed policy right now. We're trying to figure out other communities. We'd like to make it free. Again, anything and everything out here costs. So one of the ideas that we kind of entertain is that, again, this is also part of the NOST. One of my NOST priorities is to develop a regional transfer station. And that was something I was thinking about, well, we could go ahead and was telling my officials over here saying that we could go ahead and do our own like ID cards. Maybe have one for Ts'ah, but that would kind of be used as far as our regional plan. So then that way people can pay for the like residential fees, which is lower, or then that way we can distinguish who is here in the community and who's not here. Then you have two pricings. That's what we're looking at. That's what I'm looking at. Because like over at San Juan County, they have San Juan County residents. New Mexico, you can pay it's like $5 for a truckload, all your trash in that back of the truck. If you're not a resident, it's $20. Something like that. I was thinking that we could possibly do, but I wanted to do it as a regional level to where all of NOST is a part of this, and they can pay their NOST regional fees of minimal price, but anybody else they have to pay a little higher rate. Those are still in the plans, trying to figure out how best to do it. But as far as the project for Ts'ah, we're working on trying to find other avenues. So we're working with a grant writer. I'm working with a grant writer to see how we can get going. That's just more expanded view on that project. Okay. Moving on. District 2 grazing. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a members of NOST secretaries and that all the regional council. Chair, I should our main, well, we're busy with Bevan, District 2, and I'm pretty sure District 8 is all. Oljato. Room 4. what it ties, the way this thing's tied into, those grazing permit, and they'd be at N.O.S.T. Now they're kind of like a stalemate, just sitting there and collecting dust. It's because land study, vegetation study, yeah, hidden in. So based on that, as long as there's feral horses or unbranded cattle, it's gonna affect the reissuing grazing permits. Like, you probably hear grazing permit transferred, and that I haven't get it back down. I call this, but say your grazing permit has 30 sheep units. Although, as long as there's feral horses on the range, they're gonna look at it and say, you don't have vegetation. And you still have feral horses. So that's gonna affect and they want sheep units, cattle, they found a grazing permit. So they might only get like 20 back, not the whole 30. And then the other part is, we talked about home site leases and all these land withdrawals. That's gonna affect the grazing permit too. How much sheep they have on there. So the more home site leases they sign, the smaller their customers come. And vegetation is gonna go. Not every home site lease, 1 acre of tree either. It's about 10 acres. Because when you go home, vehicles and they're all over. So they pick up space. And livestock don't get grazed there. The other, what we're talking about, Bevan, is this coming summer. This prediction saying that this, according to the weather channels, we might have a hot summer. So I should look at your water source, public water facility, and I'm only make sure those are, or I don't get that one back. And just want to have water for this coming summer, although we're encouraging a reduction in livestock. Because not everybody has a big water truck with big water tanks. And that's what we're working on. Going back to unbranded livestock and Navajo Nation. Mr. Ts'ah, Jimmy, sabi kilon wahya, sabi don't retire has Shanali has been working on wild cows, unbranded cows. Cody that Navajo Nation is not capable of doing that. They don't have the equipment and they don't have the manpower to do it. So they couldn't cut off chapters. We're gonna meet with Ts'ah and we'll work on a resolution. Since Ts'ah is a certified chapter of Shonto, though, as well as Naatsis'aan, they're still working on their certification there. The reason why we want to create that resolution is outside that Ghana, they have their equipment, they have their how to do this kind of work. Either we like to bring them in and do the removal, either Monday, although the reason why is there's a lot of erosion and Oljato. Not anybody can walk down anymore without being attacked by wolves. So I know the other in my area, Shonto, a home site versus the moratorium. The reason why is, home site versus residential homes are growing, they're getting bigger and they're picking up a lot of, range area. Well, even that, they want to put a hole on this home site. The Bevan, they voted on it, equal 3 there, so they decided to vote was the chair. So in favor, but, yeah. Earlier about how much mileage that Bevan, charging compensation for signing home site lease. They don't, we don't do that. We get paid for foundation. But now at $200, we get $200 monthly. I mean, how much is fuel cost to do? And then if you drive one day, you might burn that whole fuel up. So this travel allowance is not enough. So most of the money that we use comes out of our pockets. On some of these meetings, we won't get paid like for this one. We don't have some of our talent people get paid for it. Well, the home site lease regulations, again, that's moving forward. We haven't seen the latest, the final production again. We haven't seen it. So, Mr. Chair, once I was reported, I'd like to give time to Mr. Jimson Legend.
Attention, man. Chair, Vice Chair, Secretary. In done on NOST. Rather than go ahead. Go ahead. To the bottom, on me, or only get paid for certain things. That, I don't know, they see. Put the teenage, or after the I was a the car doesn't shape. So now Jimmy doesn't know that. That's a big kilo better patch. I don't mind that. Either, good, yeah. Good, legal. What you got should change. I had an outfit down there. 23 to 27, 4 days later, now, yeah, the gun. There's an outfit out of Utah, honey to there. They permit these like kilos, so the stove level, they're running through. So they're better at bring shot patches. And they require our nation require social for. So I cut a shot 4 days shot. It gone and cut it. Spice. Meat, barrel cows are around there. He's the sheep. Oh yeah, cow. Green that. Oh man, so okay, so. We should go out some additional way that we. That is quiet, they number one, wow, that. Gangs on that. Anywhere there's a thinking about 200 on them. No. There's about 500 bits down there. That
There's the gun that shot 9 bulls out of there. Oh, and then on, we go. Oh, we got that. Split, you jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
You'll jump off a cliff. What does the guys do? I want the bulls out of here, so we need to stop some production service somewhere, so. Within a month, it got cut over them. Mile and a half out of Shonto. Quite a little cable. They rented about 50 heads. 50 heads in that small area. Doesn't matter how many cows. 9 bulls there, that's it. You cut the horns off and see it. About a second, so that you go 2 nights that they eat that. 3 cows and perfect. What was there? They all went wrong. That way. So what that? Well, I give us some shit. There's some funds that are leading up and you know. It gotta be so valuable. Yeah, it's not letting me go. For all that, they got their own product. They got the house on you with their corn to their bar. At the car, windmill there, or the truck, the traffic down that door. People are gonna need to have good bus. Their bus not long there. That door that they're right. But then, so people, I don't know who mom, she's gonna feed up to other that is cold. That's what the people that that's what I found out over this my first year that is my first term. We kind of put it in that place down there. Round up, strong, summertime, it'll be like some peaceful horse with cattle out of it. I got three times in the spring, 3 times in the fall. Depends on them. What they want to catch time. So it's up to them. So 8 horses, 4 horses. I'm still doing a report either. The report what I saw down there is these are this report's going to Michael Lona, Sue's, Desi Jim, Ernest Daniel. So listen, that's the only shit so crazy. You know what I'm not option. I heard that.
Questions? Someone?
Peter, since I went to that meeting, deciding out the emergency planning, that's my only thought we have for the oil region last year. Since we don't get flooding, we don't get tornadoes, hurricane, they did emergency funding, don't get missed. But we have drought, we have other things that could pay things off. So, Ada, I'm, like I said, I wanted to toss Ada. And on the whole side committee said, Craig, he wanted the official one, and then that grandpa, what do you call that, grandpa in? Or they fish? They got the home site, they said, me, or 1950. Anyway, some of them have that, a clustered home, they love, and now, like, the one and not, Boston. They did what I noticed in them. And, I noticed one home I visited, that home has 20 vehicles. Dodge pulling up and down and down along us again. So how can we get this health hazard to the family and everything? So it's like, the party that we get. to haul those vehicles, that's all again. That state or the everything, Asian avocado, to round up all those, since you guys are talking about round up and everything, but it pertains back to the land. Asian, how are we gonna help them to clean that up? And aid is all that just need, majority of the home that I visit without the old Yorkshire and and it does create housing of the rodents. And then whole wire stuff and things like that, so I'm kind of thinking in that direction too. Like, that again, it takes a lot of, it needs funding to remove those, if they don't have fundings, and on top of it, they're trying to deal with home site leases with the prices. Survey here, culture survey, historical, the questions, it's survey other than to get a home site lease. So maybe how can we help them? Yeah.
I have a question, relationship with, a lot of people come in for electric and running water to live in very rural and, hard places to, put some of these water and, like pipe lighting, electric lighting, all of that. And, the equipment, is very expensive when it comes down, because there's not a lot of funding from chapters and, these, homes where it's seeing right. Just think about like the grazing permits and the home site lease and, it's problem. And I've lived in the city for many years as well. And I just moved on the reservation, seeing a lot of this economic development. There's a lot of things scattered about, not even problem that I see our own families, our own community is that I've spread out far away, and it costs a lot of money for our resources to come together. Second is that these communities, these Inuit homes, these sandstone homes, they're not providing any kind of housing for their own community. So instead, it's expanding the home site lease needs for these people that need homes. And, with the grazing, yes, we do have a lot of, I live in Douglas Mesa area, and we do see a lot of feral, horses, cows. There's also a lot of coyotes out there. There's a lot of, rodents. And it's not just a horse's problem, it's not the cow's problem, it's our problem. We need to strategize how we can benefit from the horses, how we can benefit from the cows. The cows, we are grocery shopping. Why don't we put a slaughterhouse on the reservation and bring the cows in and use that as our own food bank to our community? Horses, we can use that for events, or we can use it for tourism, we can use it for, there's a lot of things, there's rodents going on, there's, a lot of different things. I don't know how, but it'd be like, look into those Western movies, and see them, we're entertained by that. They own these horses. So, I just wanted to implement, or, give you guys an insight and some thoughts on, what we can do to benefit, instead of just cutting off everything and, making our own people suffer and bring in these white people into and construct damage that people see it that way. But it's not damage, it's beneficial to us. And, I grew up on a farm in Lincoln, Utah. My parents that I lived with there, they have a farm, they raise cattle. They will not buy things from the grocery store. They raise the chickens, they raise everything, and they have a grape barn or a fruit vineyard. You know, they are using their own natural resource. What are these people doing that have grazing permits? I don't see them taking care of their animals. There's not a corral or anything. They're supposed to be herding sheep. They're supposed to be, you know, doing something with them. Nothing. I don't see any of that interaction. They're just complaining over here. This is my land, this is my land, this is my property. That so-and-so is trying to put electricity through here, so-and-so trying to get water in here. You know, that's it. But in here, you have 4 factors in here. We got brains, we should use that. And find a way of a better solution than just trying to find money to get somebody to get rid of our wild horses. Because these horses are beautiful to watch every morning and see. We don't know what's gonna happen when we get off the reservation. Then people are trying to buy horses again. I don't know if we can find a way to like, I mean, I'm just personally speaking, I'm not speaking for HOA, but it's just for seeing it that way.
Thank you.
Else, for mention about that, so, all I need a resource, like it's, they need other job. Most of them, if you go to Richfield, 3,313 Kelly Abidjan, they from different area. Kaya Yanda, Naatsis'aan, they sell them or trainer them, they give the they deal with what the bone green that's on the youth transition 1,000 out of the they over 2,000 came out of the barrel horses as of the overtime or 2.
Thank you. Okay,
Chair, just response. Yep. Thank you for the questions, your comments. You need the chapters support that. Through resolution, then we'll come to your planning meeting. So then later on, we can do, maybe Shita can do a special meeting to pass this resolution at NOST level.
Do you need this?
Little bit also. That way, it'll be in place in later. Navigation date, I'm pretty sure other chapters probably follow. Because navigation data, we don't really get a lot of support from them. Starting from Alona's office, and then enforcement department. There's something going on. They're not organized with NMDA though. We feel this as grazing official, and we hear about it, and constituent people are confused, and then we're part of the chaos too because we don't get direct information from so-called upper the executive branch. So what we get the tail end of this thing, and when we get that resolution, I'd like to push it through. Don't get Daniels, make it a little something. Yeah, Mr. Chair,
thank you. Williams.
Thank you. None, no.
Recording and talking.
the livestock, conservation, fund, conservation, water, forest. They have a fund. They certain, you know, livestock. Feral animals, birds. Birds and ours so hey, don't leave. Or a don't leave. Asia. Okay. That's just no. I don't know how the resources stand. So department. Now, relations, department. So it seems to have the expertise. I don't funding. Express. Don't have the expertise and have the funding resources. Local initiative. Shows them don't take it. And just like it's really that there are reasons. There are people out there, cowboys, that know how to handle these type of environment. We have the only demonstrated creation as a good. Not enough to get abundance, have another two things. Mesquite that they wind chill or they go out there and go wildcat. I'm open to go to because they found out they do the same thing. So aided and I think that's the the type of resource we need for the kid. Because then if you don't, I can't agree that there's wild cattle. Yeah, oh, that nothing. Oh, yeah, it is. Because we don't have the horses. Probably have the skill. They have the horse of the workers. They learn how to handle horses, wild bulls and stuff like that. The other one is how do you get rid of old vehicles? We worked on Mr. Anderson Jr. Had a lot of people. He contacted to the city, topic, down with the valley. And there were a lot of people, probably over 20. He brought in one of those, I didn't know, front end and cleaned them up, sent to a flat situation. And how it happened. If you can haul with trying to be, that's not better. If you make things the better. Recycle out of it. That's how you can help that. If you can irrigate that. Yeah, you have a front end loader, it's set there, front end loader. You can do the same thing. All you need is a flatbed, firebox. Yes, a good, a piece of it. Yeah, you transport it down. That would be my recommendation is that.
Thank you for the reports and comments. Okay. Moving on. Deputy Executive Director for DCD, Maria Dotson.
Yes, your name? Hey. Senior Center updates. Frankie. Okay. Capital Power Management Department, Michelle Peterson. Okay, Department of Health. Director Cheryl Yazzie. Okay, moving on. ARPA updates.
Hi, hello. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, who's this?
This is my name is Sean Sells, Administrative Service Officer for Navajo Department of Health.
Okay, Sean. You have the floor.
So we have a report available. It's written. Chair, if it's okay, if we submit the written report to your office. We did not see it on the agenda. We saw the senior center on the agenda. That's available, and that's what we have available is just the senior center update. If we may send that to you all for a written report submission.
If you could, would you be able to read that written report and then also send it to us so we can go ahead and distribute that to the council members here?
So we have it's a 5-page written report on Oljato Center and Navajo Mountain as well, and Shonto and Inscription House, Sabikin. Since it's a lengthy report, I think it's best if could we just send it to you all as a written report if you are able to accept that.
So right now you have a lot of 10 minutes to request that if your office has the ability to provide us a summary of the report, that would be really greatly appreciated. Not only that,
Sure.
we would love to have the written report as well. So being that you're taking time out of your day, if you have the council members here present, both in person and virtually, we would love to hear the report from you and your office. So you have 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. We do have we do have Miss Naomi Yazzie Sloan, who I believe is president, and then Miss Yazzie, Sherilyn, our director Yazzie would be joining shortly. But I'll go through a synopsis really quick of the report, and then I'll send that all to you by email. At the end of the report, if you can provide me an email, I can send that to you all. Starting with Navajo Mountain Senior Center, the center is in need for reports. Currently, the agency office has a purchase order with Page Lumber to purchase the supplies to repair ceilings and roof floor tiles, as well as the restroom area. Um, our agency is working on 3 quotes, and that's for pest control services in need, as well as recommendations for fire extinguisher services to update those. The Navajo Senior Center is sharing their current center with 2 other centers, which is our Inscription House and Shonto Oljato Senior Centers. And moving on to Oljato Senior Center. I'm trying to get a synopsis of all these here. So a lot of the report here, Chair, provides are technical. I if we could before we could provide the written report to you all, so you have it as well as the delegates in NOST region. So that way it's better read and understood by all, and then we are able to respond by email for questions on the reports.
Sean,
Yes.
Sean, Yates, Chair, this is Naomi Yazzie Sloan with Daltix for Western Agency. And this morning I did indicate that I was on the call. And I can go through this report if I may. Is that okay, Sean?
Yeah, I'll pass it on to you, and I'll be on the call as well. And Ms. Yazi as well for any
Okay.
administrative questions they have. So thank you, Ms. Yazi Sloan.
Okay, great, thank you. Chair, meeting that heed that is not Chair Naomi Yazi Sloan when she Nasha Tedeshki and Shion Bashish Chin Katness that she trade Ani Dashanala Stolen Sla the back in June, edition on this program supervisor. Could be charged of spa. So, had this need or the 13 senior centers, and out of those 13 senior centers, I have Navajo Mountain, Oljato, Inscription House, and Shonto. Inscription House and Shonto, they're together in one center. So I can start with the report for Navajo Mountain. There's certain repairs, as Sean mentioned. We have a purchase order for Page Lumber, and we still need to pick those up so we can get the repairs completed. Okay, floor tiles, the ceiling tiles, other toilets that they need to be replaced. Other we have quotes for pest control, other fire extinguisher. We want recommendations on who we can we can select to do the services. In the past, I understand they used to work with fire department, but with this, the supervisor had to take the extinguishers to this person that used to help them. But I think what we need right now, it's not only a need for Navajo Mountain, but it's a need for all the senior centers. And I did in several of my reports that we do need to do a contractor or a contract to get, pest control throughout the Western Agency. And we have Lelichi, Navajo Mountain, Tonalea, then Hotso, and then across the other way to Bird Springs, Loop, and Cameron. On Kazan, Hotso. Okay, but and the Navajo Mountain, and so my supervisor there, right now. So these are the items that she identified, and based on that, I've done the purchase orders. So right now we're working with the vendor. So hopefully we will be getting those supplies to the center soon. Other Oljato got been closed for like 2 years, and it was something that has been there for the past 2 years before, or a year and a half before I got there. Of course, I did go a year ago on the whole with the center, and OEH closed it down, and although they did another inspection on February 27th, and they continued to have the senior center closed. So the major critical items that are for discrepancy is the fire and safety, the hood vent suppression system, the ANSEL, which need professional assessment. The recommendations that were made is to have all senior centers assessed for all of these discrepancies. Other sunlight visible through the pantry door, which needs commercial grade weather stripping and door sweeps. Other structural leak, there's bubbling above the sink, which indicates a localized roof failure, and standing water or leaks that go over the food prep areas. Other we did go out there with the team, Navajo Nation, OEH, and other I think it's IHS Environmental Health. And during that time when we did the walkthrough, they did notice that there's a vertical cracking in the exterior stucco. And what they're recommending is that, I guess they're saying that without addressing the underlying soil condition, any superficial repairs will likely fail as the building continues to shift. So at this time, Navajo Nation OEH has forwarded this assessment over to Navajo Nation Environmental Protection Agency. But since then, I haven't received an update on that assessment that was done. The Shonto and Inscription House, Ajigo Eya, there's a 3-compartment sink in the kitchen that has a direct connection to the sewer system. To prevent contamination by stopping sewage from backing up into the sink, we need a licensed plumber to install a trap floor drain with an air gap. And there's no self-closing device on the restroom doors to minimize touching the door to reduce the spread of germs and bacteria. There's no self-closing device on the kitchen exit door. So all of those devices need to be put in to prevent the entrance of rodents and insects. Although the HVAC system, and we're advising that the HVAC system be inspected and repaired. Although the fire suppression system needs to be serviced and all fire extinguishers must be needs to be assessed monthly and annually. And this center right now is it's going to be demolished, and there's going to be a design and construction that needs to be done. Okay, in the meantime, we've been trying to see if we could get this center back open so the staff could continue or start serving from that center again. And right now it's partially closed. So the kitchen area, it's closed. But as far as doing curbside, it's open. But I had a meeting with my staff with Navajo Mountain on Tuesday. And during that time, I did inform them that they need to start planning on how they're going to be working on that. And recently, I found out that a lot of the home delivery and congregate, they've all been doing home delivery. That's how they're doing their home delivery. But what was supposed to be happening is some of them were supposed to be doing the serving at the center as curbside. But I did meet with them and I did let them know that they need to start doing that. Although I don't know if you guys are aware, but all of the senior centers have the same menu. And with that same menu, I did inform them that they need to be cooking together. As a team, you need to work out all the tasks. Although separate them by the elders that you're serving. Although from there, you can do your home delivery. Although the curbside, so hopefully, starting on Monday, I'm going to check on that and see how that's going. So that's where we're at with Shonto and Inscription House Senior Center. So let's see, although as for, I think I covered all the centers. So we covered Navajo Mountain, Oljato, Shonto and Inscription House. Okay, although as far as home delivery, the numbers that I put together for Navajo Mountain for both both home delivery and congregate, I have a total of 875 meals that are prepared for Navajo Mountain. Although Oljato 120, Shonto 525, although Apikin 929. So that's all included, home delivery and congregate. We do meals. So I do, work with my supervisors or supervisor. They're there locally at the senior centers. And through them, I get encourage them to make sure they work with all their chapters. And in the chapters, that's how I believe some of them are not certified and some are certified. So, for example, we have one senior center that is a certified chapter, and we have an agreement with them where we share the costs on a lot of the repairs that are done, other electricity, water, propane. They split that cost with us. So I think, in a lot of these critical items, I think we really need to work with the chapters, and I think, as everybody pitching in and, trying to get these centers back up, I do need to sit down with these chapters and find out, where I need updates on where everything is, going to be moving forward. So, I'm located in Tuba City at the agency office, and I'm a staff of one, actually two people there at the agency, and there's two positions that are open, and I did advertise one of them. So I'm actually doing 3 positions for the agency and for Deltex. So it's not only these 3 senior centers, but there are 10 other senior centers that are out there. So, and I do, believe in, I guess, the hierarchy of, our system. And the senior centers, you see, they run the centers, although through them, I get reports. And not too long ago, with the direction of Director Yazzie, she informed all of the agencies to work with our CO1, 2, and 3. Get all your numbers together and just know. So we did that. ABC 1, that's where our equipment. We list all the senior centers. They list all their needs. Also, based on all of those CO1 listings, I took that list and I compiled it together, and I took all the needs that they had on all the equipment. So we got several 3-compartment sinks, stoves, refrigerators, freezers. We got equipment. For a Navajo Mountain, there is a stove. I believe it's a 8-burner stove. They worked. Although there's another stove that was switched out with Oljato for them to use, but that stove, it needs to be put into the center by a licensed person. No, and I know Navajo Mountain works really well with their chapter. So I believe if we can all, meet on this, and if anybody, any department, any agency have any questions, for any of my centers, they need to come to me and talk to me. ako, di hot in in order for me to know, what, are the needs of what people see out there. These different departments, they need to come to me and they need to meet with me. So, I think if we just, I think, a lot of these, things can be worked out, and hopefully, we're able to get all these senior centers back open. So, report is and thank you for having me, and and I look forward to meeting some of you. I feel that I'm still pretty new to Daltic, so I will leave that open. And if you need to get a hold of me, my email address is nyazi-sloan@navajo-nsn.gov, and then my phone number is 928-283-3351. That's my direct number at the agency office. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions? Alex? Thank you, Chair. So I don't know the not question for Mrs. Sloan. Question or what I know from the Navajo Senior Center, my name is Alex Witzini, Vice President at Naatsis'aan chapter. Change, don't look up, what's change. This is kind of change, there's I guess I think that's just regarding the senior center, the new kid now on that down there was the roof was leaking. Although stove got removed that you mentioned earlier. And Ruby was override by regarding that stove, but she got override by Sapikin and Oljato, so issues with a couple we don't want our senior center to shut down over another long. Although we're still dealing with breach track though. The Oljato has not working what plan more is that we will also report to work. Although I think the delivery as came at 6 p.m. or no. We have a huge discussion on the Donna planning meeting now. Gian turned on legal safety for your employee and your clients and cost to those on the meeting. Okay, they have the kingdom. Did not just get the no local. So did and that is you can't know that's change either or that was even in Kato. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay,
Hold on.
thank you.
Priscilla.
Secretary Treasurer. The state meeting, Monday, Honey, not vessel, I know since I heard a lot about senior citizen, the non-Yankee, and then he gave us a list of all the deficiencies on each the senior citizen the codex of the king of the army. There's a whatever comes name that no out of deficiency, there's a lot of deficiencies. So those schemes, or maybe you could help us to push the system in. Somehow the way you sound and you have a lot of knowledge about it, and yet you think what young meetings help the chapter house help us to net. So in return, coming from the chapter housing, in return, you can get to push the system so we can have the building set. And we can help with the Navajo Mountain. Go the Shonto, the tiny chapter. Hey, it's a once we get that building in, it's gonna benefit a lot of neighbors. A visual efficiency, one thing you replace one thing, the other thing's gonna go up. You replace one thing, touch it will not touch, or it can't again. So we're putting too much funding in, renovating this, renovating that, and a lot of those clients and everything are outdated. They're all outdated and they're gonna be, we're in our locations, we'll be interested in finding over things over. So, for that could only be them, but we can balance maybe and keep on anyway to push it more for us. So we need to really, work together on that. Yeah.
Just to expand on that, this is the reason why I keep telling you guys and your director there that hasn't had the chance to see me or respond to me, but I keep asking that you guys have the full authority to provide us the funding so we can go ahead and get the project done, because according to Navajo Nation, we're already at 1.5 years. We could have already built the senior center with the funding that you had, but they're still waiting. So, hey, now that's why we're having these issues. So, but that's just to add on to Willie. Great.
Okay.
Where I mean, staff reassignment. That's the issue that I'm facing with. I see that, but I'm the Navajo Mountain senior citizen to Monument Valley, not Oljato, Monument Valley is 109 miles. Ottawa, Kujanana, 10 miles. So at the most 115 miles. Every day, staff. Ottawa, Shonto. Ottawa, 5 times bastante easy. See, business is set now. What kind of a plan are you imposing on your staff? They are living off the Navajo paycheck. I don't, if you train them, I don't do staff training and whatnot. It's going to be a costly thing because these are the people that are working at the outskirts of the Navajo Nation. Navajo Nation, the remote areas, the darkness. We have 0 or -10 economic development in these communities. Of course, at the end, they're facing all kinds of problems. Fatigue, I don't know, probably psychological trauma. You're imposing these conditions on them. Not even immediate, but later on, maybe help generate precipitate from these imposement. Sure, hey, the common start staff and identity. What up, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Sloan, you have the floor.
Okay. Did you want me to respond to that?
Yes, you can respond.
Okay, the phone, it blares, so I tried to pick up as much as I could on here. So the first person had Ziggy, as far as, the senior centers go, there's a lot of discrepancies, yes, and based on, the funding, I think what we're talking about as far as the senior centers, they were, earmarked for each of the centers. Okay, this was a legislation that was done by council. So that legislation, how it's going to be spent and how they're going to be, the procurement is going to be made. Audit there has only so as I was saying, the hierarchy, we have our council, we have our director, and then I have my HSA at the central office, and then there's me. Okay, we do make these reports and we do talk about it. And recently, we did have a meeting at our central level, and they did hire a contractor, Gleaming Cube. So this Gleaming Cube, these people, they sent out, I believe they would be other vendors that they're working with. They went through the senior centers, and I believe they're still going through these centers. And discrepancies, some of them. I think they're still going through that. Okay, once they complete their assessment, I understand they're going to also have vendors to start fixing these discrepancies or these corrections that need to be made. So I believe, let me see, I don't remember exactly when they did that, but before that, it was given to us at the senior center or the agency level for the centers. And what I just mentioned earlier, as far as the CO1, all those equipment, based on that, we did get those equipment, and then we did get some of the supplies that were needed to fix these small areas, for example, Navajo Mountain. So chosen at the agency level, I submitted ORs, and we got our purchase orders, and we ordered everything, and has land. So at don't do any more spending. So at contractor, by that. So I believe it. As far as the building construction, it was given to I believe you guys call it CPMD. So it by that and I'm not sure where that's at. But they can speak to that. But and other than that, as far as it going further, so the Oljato staff it's really, a personnel, just to tell you the logistic part of it, Oljato closed this was way before I came to Daltex. And during that time, I believe she was at Danahodso, so they wouldn't allow her to operate out of there. That's when until I came in. The only place that I could reassign her was to Inscription House. So as you see, the mileage between has aniki, the niniki, so there's other, other senior centers, but that was the only place that I could, put her. And based on the recommendation that was made for me. So when I started that, I did tell her to put a plan together, a schedule together. Quado na center na Oljato do da hanten tato sha hana na shalon sato. You have to drive so far just to go to work. When you leave your Oljato auto, you have to be at that center at 8 o'clock there. So you have your supplies, you have your plan on how you're going to do the cooking. You have to go to your assigned workstation. From there, when you do your cooking, I want you to do a plan. The schedule. When you leave Navajo Mountain, inscription house in there. It's Navajo Mountain. So get that plan, when you leave the senior center to the time that you deliver that food, maybe it would be better for the staff or the elders to meet you at one location at the snow. But I think she's only serving maybe like 4 to 6 people. It varies on certain days, I believe. So that's not very many, and within that time frame, she's there before the 2-hour lapse time. Okay, health and safety, foodborne. The limit is 2 hours, but she's within that time frame. Although this schedule, although it looks like it's going to be feasible, so but as far as her not being able to do that, I think she needs to come to me and talk to me. We can set up a different way of doing this. But like I said, in order for me to address things, those concerns need to come to me. Only the chapter house do had the shibana now. Until this meeting so I think, to me, this is a personnel thing. So I'm not going to speak further on that. So I need, the time frame and all that, and elders but her and I did do that plan, and it to us, it was feasible. But now I'm hearing these things, so we can go back and we can address that. Although I think those were the questions that you guys all had. But as far as the money, like I said, that's up to the executive director and the council. It's already set by law through legislation how that the process of that procurement and the spending of the money goes. So, and thank you. I really appreciate these concerns and these questions that you guys are posing to me.
Thank you, Ms. Sloan. Willie, go ahead. Further, yesterday we had a Naatsis'aan planning meeting, and that was what was on the agenda. And I learned from the person that was re-signed.
I can't hear anybody.
Indicated that Oljato senior citizen was ready, almost ready for construction. The only thing that was needed was to have the chapter president sign the contract. But the president refused Therefore, it's a standstill. How can you, if that's true, how
Is
can you?
anybody there? I can't hear anything.
We're here. So we need a solution.
We need to stop that. Control using the help, it's not always advocate solution.
It would be helpful if you attend this in person. That would be great. Okay. Ms. Sloan, do you have a response? Okay. We'll proceed forward then. Again, please echo my frustration to your executive director that we require that they need to be here on site because apparently you don't know what's really going on, and it would be helpful if you come out to the site and attend the meetings. So then that way you have a better understanding of what you're supposed to, of the areas that you are managing and directing. Not only that, I do cordially invite you to the Ts'ah chapter meeting, which is next Monday. So I would expect to have you present, so then that way we have the ability to talk about the issues and concerns regarding the Ts'ah chapter. With that, we will go ahead and move on. ARPA updates. Okay, moving on into the water projects. Okay. Now we'll address the rural authority departments. Okay. Rural addressing project update, spatial data research. Okay, field supervisor, CDBG block grant, Jerome Myers. Or Leslie Lee. Okay, and since we have Navajo Power here, I'll go ahead and invite you guys to provide your presentation. Or do we want to do that during the resolution? Do it during the resolutions. Resolution before presentations. It's for you to stay here. It's for you to be here and listen to the important stuff.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry, I have
Okay.
Harpa on the line.
Who's on the line?
Harpa.
What?
They're not here. I don't see.
He's trying to get on the lane. She's laying down.
Okay.
Hello?
Go ahead. Who's this?
This is Naomi. I lost contact for a while.
Oh, thank you.
I
So thank you for that. But we went ahead and moved on. So
Okay,
we
thank
really
you very much.
appreciate it. So
Since I second the, for the agenda, since she made it through, can you hear her?
for who?
So let me just told her.
Oh, that was Slim. The one we were just talking to.
Yeah.
She said she's gonna log back on, log back.
All right, so right now, please go out in the back. There's some food back there. Please get some food while we wait for whoever. Next. But otherwise, the food back there, help yourself. Otherwise, we're going to move on to that's yeah. Mr. Isaac's presentation.
I usually look at that between people and food, so if you want to get it, then it's off while you all are trying to get ready. Yeah, shave, I take it, shit. Piano, she was just his honey got to child, my brother. Feels good to be home. Actually, my vertical like Shonto Head Start. So my mom was the teacher up there when they first got out of college and back home. And dad, she knows. My dad's from up here. I know he's many lots. Good to see some developers here. My first job out of college was actually in this building. So in the back corner, there was an organization called Shonto Community Development Commission. And it was a nonprofit that was created from the LGA work that Shonto was doing to try to address a lot of issues. But one of its big driving missions was to work on diversification away from coal, because at that time, that was generating station in Peabody, where this was in 2009. They were saying we need to renegotiate and like close. There's a lot of conversations. And so from this community, we started working on economic development. They put 4 priorities in. That Shonto Community Development Corporation eventually became what that store and the hotel was down there. And so in my work there, I started E Ventures. We started a tourism company that led to Rocky Canyon. We started what was called Shonto Economic Development Corporation, which led to those stores and that hotel. And then I started an energy company because Shonto had given me a responsibility back then to figure out how to electrify hospital homes. And so I started my first solar company because Shonto was really working on trying to figure it out. But there have just been a lot of conversations. No one actually brought me solar panels or figured out the business end of it. So ever since my first job here, it's the first job that I applied for and actually got. You know, I applied for Navigation plenty of times and never even got here. But when I worked here, it was the first job that I actually applied and had money, you know, that they paid for me to work here. Every year after that, I've either had to create my own business, raise my own capital, get grants, or just hustle. You know, I haven't had, you know, a job since then because one of the challenges of being out here, there's not a lot of jobs to have. You know, that's been the case for a very long time. You know, if you run the numbers, they still say that we have 50% unemployment out here. If there's 100,000 people, that means we need 50,000 jobs. You know, so when AGS closed, that was 1,000 jobs that we lost instantaneously. Since 2019, when that closed, we haven't really seen any response to it. You know, when things happen, is that they tore down the smokestacks over their page. But back then, the conversation we were having is exactly what I'm doing today, which is we needed people to actually work on deploying. So there's a lot of conversations, a lot of good things you guys are talking about, a lot of resources that you need, but you still need someone to actually take those things, figure out how to structure them, and then get them out into the community. And that's what I did with solar. We had this business plan and the community was thinking about starting their own business. But the thing is that was free from the government. You know, government was trying to start a business. And even business people find it very hard to start businesses out there. And so we had to get a creative way to think about how to build a business. Because there's no banks that give businesses loans. And then for homeowners out here, if you want solar, There's very limited places you can go to get credit or finance, you know. But if you want a vehicle, you can go to any dealership around our borders and it will lend to almost anybody. So credit does work for our members, but for some reason it doesn't work when you're staying on our lands. And so I took this initiative back then to really think about our economics. What are we really doing? How can we sustain ourselves and provide things better? I always use the example of think about what's all in this stream and how much of it has to be given, how much is invested, how much was built here, and it's literally less than 1%. All the things that we use on our homelands are not things that we built, we created, or we utilize. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't need these things. It means that we're completely dependent on employees. And our jobs are even dependent on us having access to the outside world. One of the reasons we have so many elders living in vulnerable situations, people who are able to work have to go very far to work. And so they don't live in these rural communities. You know, if you talk to the elders, and I did for years. When I started the first solar company, we powered about 200 homes around the Navajo Nation. And it was very difficult because it was all done with grants. And it was unsustainable because every time you get a grant, you have to work on fulfilling it and then closing out and submitting a report. But for a business, you can't afford that time. And so when we ran out of money for customers, we didn't have work for our people to go and make installations. And so it became this like feast and famine. We could get money, but only temporarily. It's very similar to what happened to us recently with like our care. There was a lot of money available at one time. But come next year, there's almost going to be nothing available in those pots. And so I saw that and in conversations with communities, we saw that a decade ago. That all this is being like constriction was happening, meaning less resources, less federal programs, less revenue. You know, $40 million we lost from Peabody and PS. That's still a big gap that will overcome again. 5 years from now, there's another closure on the other side of the reservation at Four Corners that's scheduled today. It may get extended, but that's another 1,000 jobs. That's another $40 million hole that we're going to need to fill for the resources that you all as leaders are helping to get out to these communities. You know, I put a list of concerns together. One of my first projects was actually solid waste. So solid waste management plan that we developed in 2010 for this area. I'll give that to you. That's a good start. We did the economics on solid waste act. And we tried to set up a transfer station, but what we did was we GPS every single solid waste illegal dump site, you know, the old ones that was created by the schools, the hospitals, and we found 2 million acres from here to Oljato that were covered in illegal dumping. And so we submitted that to the Navajo Nation. They said, that's great. They have no money. So it just sat on the shelf because we figured out what the problem was. We all know what the problem is out here. We all see it and feel it. But we don't have a lot of people working on the solutions. And so Navajo Power is something that over years of working with community, and actually today, we incorporated the Navajo Power on April 4th, 2018. So today we're celebrating our 8th year of existence. But we created it based on conversations that I've been having with the community for years, and concerns about energy. Where are we going to get revenue from? What's the technology we're going to use? How do we make sure it doesn't hurt us like these last ones did? We have lasting health elements in our communities because of things that were done, you know, for economic. I want to make sure that that's not something that continues to happen. And so looking at what we could do, you know, I created Navajo Power as an alternative to what I saw in governments doing, because there were chapters, there were enterprises, all focused on trying to figure out how to get the public sector to get involved, like whether it's the Navajo Nation trying to buy power plants or creating fintech to go invest in mines all around the country, things like that. didn't feel like they were making us feel any better here, because it's still going away from here and developing it out there. It's not creating it where we need it, which is back home in these communities, but we want to be jobs. And so we started working on an idea of where's that value? Where can we be the most impactful? And it was an energy development, because energy development is that early stage of siting, permitting, real estate, but also financial configuration. This is when they figure out who's going to own this city and what do they need to bring into it, so that you figure out the long-term piece of it. Getting involved in that place was making sure that we, as our people, had a voice in what was happening. How these companies look at energy, how they value community benefit, how they do permitting, how they do all the things that are required for a project like this. And so we wanted to get involved in that. And again, it's from years of watching you guys. I watched things work, not work. I watched frustrations. I saw strategies for many administrations all kind of get really good, nice momentum and just fall apart. And where they fell apart is because the policies out here are very conflicting. I'll give you one scenario that I use that's relating to everybody. So most people don't know the highest sales tax in the entire United States for a municipality is to the city of Arizona. So the entire place, so it's 12.9%, because you have navigation tax, but then there's business tax, Coconino County tax, state of Arizona tax. Now, 13.9% doesn't seem like a lot if it's a can of soda or, bag of chips, that's what, 13 cents, 20 cents, whatever. But if it's a $50,000 truck, that's $6,000 extra dollars. Now, let's say you bought a $50,000 truck into the city, and they're saying your taxable is going to be $6,000. If you drove 80 miles to Flagstaff, you would be exempted as a Navajo member from the state taxes there, but you still have to pay the city tax unless you got it delivered to the reservation. But if you drove 80 miles to Flagstaff, you could literally take a $6,000 tax bill all the way down to zero. And that's why our businesses struggle. And that's why our people struggle. It's because you don't realize there's an underlying cost to all of these things that we're doing. You brought up the payments for energy service. NCUA has kept a very affordable rate for a very long time. And I know some of their customers too, but that $160, that's our problem. And I know it's expensive, I agree with you. But that's a fully unsubsidized cost. That's us raising the money, lending it to the homes, taking care of the systems, paying for 10 years of service. We also have free battery replacement in that as well. So for 10 years, these homeowners don't have to touch a thing. We come and do all of it. And that's what it costs us, $160. But that's not taking any tax credits, any money from the government, any money from the nation. Now, we also went and we got grants for the Navajo land, the Navajo land, what's it called? Commission Office. We partnered with them to get a grant specifically for the former Bennett Freeze. Our customers in the former Bennett Freeze community said, we need to find a subsidy for our elders, our veterans, our single parent head of households, because the economics, $160 is a lot. And so we went and we got some grants. We have 150 customers that were providing services to the former Bennett Freeze. They're paying $20. And we take care of it's the same service as the full tilt one. But that's what happens when you add subsidy. Because we got a grant to help bring down the overall costs, and we passed all those savings on to those customers. Now, on top of that, we took those 150 and because they can't access the tax credit, they don't have the tax liability to get it. We did that. We clustered it together. We went to the feds and we brought back about $300,000 that we then put back into the community again. And so now we're up to 500 homes. Here's a map. So I didn't bring extra copies of this, but this is what Navajo Power Homes. So we created this company about 2 years ago. And the reason we created it is we're developing one of the largest solar farms in the country, on the border of coal mine and Chelos. And we picked that area because of the substation that's located right there. There's an interconnection point. Now, we're designing a 750 megawatt project, which is what the Bay Desert Power Project is. But out of that, the community kept asking, how can we get power? Because we still have hundreds of people that are living in generators with kerosene, with ice chests and dry ice. And so they wanted to know, can we just plug can we plug it into it? But if you seem to know what the highest cost is running those lines between the house. 15 years ago, they used to say it's 25,000 a mile. I'm not sure if it is now, it's probably closer to 50. But we had to figure out how to address that challenge. And so we came up with a good solution that provided solar and batteries and all the equipment needed, but also the financial system. We raised the money so that we could create our own bank to lend to that home. Because the one thing that I used to do 10 years ago was I'll build solar units and sell them completely, but you had to come. And if something happened, you're going to need a request. And that was very difficult for a lot of these, and that's why Roland was talking about. There's a lot of systems out there that maybe just need batteries, but it could easily be $4,000 for them that most homes don't have available. So we created a program that had a monthly payment that we felt was manageable, $160. We did an assessment. The average household is spending about $300 to $400 a month on gas, generators, kerosene, bags of ice chests, like all these things to try to fill that gap. We would go to these homes and we would survey them. How much are you spending? How much time are you taking? And on average, it was $300 to $400. So we said, if you keep cutting that in half, would you pay that? And they said, yeah, that probably helped us a lot. And so 60 is not the perfect solution. It made it easier for them to live in these places. And we took that burden. Right now, we employ 13 young Navajos that are all just amazing people. We actually took one of yours from the president's office. Ms. Crystal Littlebit is one of our new community representatives. But the idea that we have a warehouse in Flagstaff. Mr. Black actually came to one of our events last week and saw the infrastructure we built. And so we created this company because we know NTUA doesn't have all the resources to solve it, or Intech or the navigation. None of our programs are fully funded. They're not resourced in a way that they can see. If you cut out the federal funding that we get, our enterprises are going to be in a lot of trouble. And so we needed to create ventures that were not subsidized, they're not leveraged by the public. Because then for me, my companies, it's all on me. Now it's the risk that I have to wake up with every single day. But we've had to raise so much money to do this. And what happened to start this company was I had gotten to this point with trying to build a company here in this community. This wasn't working because of the finance. And then I tried to work with other companies to try to build it up here. It wasn't working because of finance. And so finally, I met some people that showed me how to make it happen. And so we went out to the Bay Area, went to New York City, and we figured out how to leverage all of these organizations that have been saying that they want to invest in. They want to invest into indigenous people. They want to invest into economic development for minorities and disadvantaged. And we said, put your money where your mouth is. Invest into us, and we'll go out and try to do things that help advance the mission. And so developing the solar farm was a big home run that we need to make a dent in those metrics. The unemployment numbers, the revenue that we need to see, the tax filing that we're asking for is because the way the existing tax codes of the Navajo Nation work, they're not friendly to businesses. Why you don't see Walmart, Home Depot, Ford, we're probably some of their best customers. You go to even one of these border towns and they're putting multiple Home Depot is up because we will try it. They come to our place. In my way, it's because it's too expensive to own a building. The taxes that you have to pay. Now, the greatest example I have is, well, what about Peabody and NGS? They were never taxed. You know, from when they were created, they have a loyalty agreement that essentially bundled all their payments into one thing. But it was also written, you can never tax these ventures for the life. And so the Navajo Nation has never gained revenue from power, from at least from the taxes from power lines. They got money for the coal, they got money for the leases and those things, but we haven't assessed a tax on the production of energy ever. And so we're trying to create a simplified tax. And that's what this is, what we call a payment in lieu of taxes. So we negotiated with the Navajo Nation Department of Minerals, the Department of Justice, the Office of Navajo Tax Commission, the President's office also had representatives there. And we came up with an agreed tax rate that is confidential between us and the Navajo Nation. But I encourage you, if you want to know that, reach out to your delegates because they're the ones who were involved in this process as well. And the reason they make that confidential is because if that number is known, every company in Thomas will know exactly where to target the Navajo Nation on their taxes and say, you gave this to them, you that too. So we keep those things confidential because it keeps an advantage to the nation in negotiating the higher amount. And so that's always what we're trying to work on is how do we make sure that the value of these projects, the revenues, the dollars, no matter what it is, the jobs, lands that are here, and the policy's got to match that in some ways. Right now, the tax code doesn't do that, you know, and I gave you that one scenario where you're buying a vehicle, but that's the same with even those that are vendors, you know, when they sell products out here, it's not easy to pay your tax. You know, one of our biggest industries out here is a lot of the side of the road vending and flea markets. I don't think we collect any taxes from any of that. This is all voluntary. You know, and right now we have a lot more concerns for our government than trying to do a big comprehensive tax overhaul. We've done it in some communities where we looked at how taxes play a role, you know, like in the city of Flagstaff, the city bit of tax you put into them, it comes out in roads, power system, infrastructure. Out here, massive infrastructure that they use. That's called your capital expenditure, what the cost of the product is. And then you get revenue from that. I don't think if there was a business that saw how much it costs to build all our infrastructure, and they saw how much you could collect back from our customers, they would struggle with figuring out how that's sustainable, you know. And that's what I go back to. It's like you got to bring that closer to parity, meaning that it can't cost you a lot more out here if you need to bring up revenue to pay for it. So a lot of these services that I'm talking about, we got to find ways to make them more sustainable, less dependent on things that are not guaranteed. And so, just like this solar project, it's a 35-year solar project. It'll have a 35-year contract with projected revenue. So every year there's a guarantee, including clauses in there that if the power company or someone wants to stop early, there's a penalty. They have to pay up the rest of what they owe. We built this contract, this company, this initiative, and we've even advised this agreement from the same viewpoint that you guys are looking at right now. Because I was sitting here a decade ago having the same conversations about how do we make sure this is. But it's more attractive now. It's doing it, you know, it's involved in these processes. And that's where I come, you know, like I created this company, I'm bringing these resources, and we brought in a lot of partners. And there's a lot of questions as to who are these people. About $2 billion. I don't know anyone that is hardworking that doesn't have $2 billion to spend. So to build a project like this, I need friends. But the thing is I have to find people that are willing to partner with our communities and make sure that if we're gonna create a job, they train the Navajo person to do that job. If we're gonna create a contract, that we try to find vendors that are Navajo based or native based at a minimum. And so we made them commit to all of these things. And so we have a workforce program where we're working with all the unions, the utilities, the universities, the colleges in the region to try to create incentives so we can start training the workers. We've already created our first 13 technicians, and we need financiers, we need engineers, we need, all these different services. And so this is just getting started. But part of why we're coming to you for this request is the taxes need to be adjusted, and it's not a waiver, we're not asking for paying nothing. When we ran a scenario with the tax commission, my team sat down with the auditors and compared it to the state of New Mexico, the state of Arizona. The taxes were 4 to 8 times higher. Now, the reason it's 4 to 8 times is because there's a discrepancy between the Navajo Nation law and the statute. So the statute is the policy. That's what the employees use to enable the tax. There's a definition difference between the two. And we brought that up to the tax commission, but apparently the tax commission doesn't have full quorum. There are only 2 members and they need 3. So for the last 3 or 4 years, they've been trying to get more members on that council to be able, so they can take action on some of these issues. We've been waiting 3-4 years since we first talked to them. And so we just said, okay, we can't just wait forever for that, because that's a political process. So we said, let us come up with an agreement that simplifies the taxes, that simplifies the way that it's understood, make sure the nation is getting at least what we would have to pay if we build this project in Winslow or on the other side of Flagstaff. We know what that number is. The number we offered in the tax pilot agreement is greater than that. And that's what we were trying to go after, was we wanted something that was fair, but wasn't burdened. Because if it's too expensive, we can't build a bus, we can't compete with the energy around us. And all those big solar and wind farms that you see popping up on I-40, up in Utah, those will keep happening. Unless we can figure out how to make our areas more competitive to be able to host some of these projects. So there's opportunity there. That's what I'm actually for today, is just support on this initiative so that we can make a simpler tax for this particular project, which will lead to more opportunities. Now, we're open to a lot of conversations about what this means for a lot of things. We're really about trying to get something done. Even speaking about replacing these plants with something for as long as I've been around. But Intuit is the only one that's been successful at it. But even the amount that they've installed right now, it's minuscule compared, to what the rest of the future is doing and what the opportunity is. Now, there's also a lot of concerns that we've heard. Data centers are a big concern because of the water usage and the impacts. If you don't do data centers, that's not something that we're comfortable with. And we understand from the same perspective as a community, it's irresponsible to use that much water when we're dealing with the drought for something like compute, But the other thing is even risk. The project area we looked at is a former abandoned uranium impacted area. We work with EPA to determine safety, but we work with the communities to assess what were you utilizing this land for. And all of them kind of kept relaying that back in the day, because more recently, because of drought, that area has little to no vegetation. And so those families have been seeing impact just degrade their land. And so when we went to these permittees to ask for, to utilize this, we asked, okay, who are your enemies? And most of them said they're gonna corral the house because there's nothing out there for them. If we send them out there, they're gonna starve and die of thirst because there's no resource. We didn't even find wildlife in our biological assessment. Instead, without just out there to look for habitats. We were looking for ground bats, we were looking for raptors, we were looking for everything we could find. We didn't find anything. We found a couple of wild horses and a couple of wild cattle. Our lease that we got for this area, and it's right there north of the bridge in Canada. On the east side, there's a flat plain. That's where we're developing this project. In that area, it's just been so impacted by all these things that the residents are no longer getting any kind of economic value. You know, they're having to buy all the hay, they're having to pull all the water. And so when we said we can do something with this that will generate some revenue for the community in the area, they were open to it. And eventually they agreed to it, they signed off. We got the permits, we got the whole process completed. We did a 164 that was completely signed off. And our lease was issued and signed by the president in January of this year. And so this tax agreement is actually a companion to that lease. Because with the lease, we got a lease rental, we agreed upon a price. We're gonna give the Navajo Nation for the land. But the reason why we couldn't do that very early on is the taxes were all over the place. And so we had to hold as much, like we had to kind of hold as much capital, like we had to create a position where if the taxes were high, we could figure out how to absorb it. And so that made our base rate low, just because, you know, all the economics are like one time. You can slice it up and how you want. But really, if it gets too big, then the pie project just can't be afforded. And so the taxes and the lease, we couldn't figure out how much they were going to be until we went to the president and asked him, we need help negotiating these two out. So under the direction of the president's office and also legislative council, we sat down with that team and we figured out both those numbers out. And we did that from August of last year until we finally got an agreement in December. And then in January, we voted, we presented the RDC and we voted and passed it. Now so we passed that lease number in January. Now we're passing the tax number and we're thinking it's going to be on the spring session in April, in 2 weeks on Navajo Nation Council. But the impacts of what we're doing is that if we can't get this tax agreement, the project just doesn't have the economics to move forward. It's too expensive to do it that way. But that doesn't mean we're trying to not pay taxes. It just means we're trying to make them to a level that we can afford. And then there's more value going out after that way. You know, we expect to employ about 400 to 800 people over a number of years. There will be permanent jobs if the project's fully built out. That results in about $160 million in local wages that will be paid if this project is fully built out. So beyond the revenue to the governments and the different pieces, there's also value back to the average Navajo citizens in the jobs that will be available, the economics and the opportunities too. Because we will need things like electricians and engineers and that side, but we'll also need food service and hospitality and all these other elements that a project like this can bring to a region. So that's the information I have today. I appreciate everyone for allowing me to speak today, Chad. Questions, Priscilla?
Parallel. And yeah, to the city, I know city is very awesome. Storage we said. And some shop. You see, I know, and we put a lot of money on it. And we're tossed for papers and get one here. No thing is the solar panels. Now, how just like say, I'm not into that area. The wall voltage, what price can, what they have, if you have, how much can, they care about. Clients their home. They keep, I'm just looking at that, and like I said, they have chickens. And I didn't get any part explaining because of the maintenance, costs everything. Hey, now I ran into a lady that please look up native Illinois. She we talk a lot. Every time we talk about it, that's no construction. Then we install, but everything is like donations and grant. You don't charge them, but the only thing is you train them how to make their own panel, their own insurance chief. We train them to be that. My beer went up. This might be good. So I don't going into NTA, and when the rock head start, of the head starts headquarter. Oh, the head start. Anyways, they are a mile from the last poll, which we have reached. And then listening to her, they have, I'm sorry, I can say Joan. Listen to her, a lot of people don't just come out, they live miles away from their electricity. So we can't help them because we were told by NTA only a mile radius from the last poll. They have a problem. And the people that lives 80 miles and outskirts from the home, we help them because anything to take to them costs on $5 about thorough. And then back here, I went to Vegas for this 6. You're going over there, miles of solar panels and I'm coming back, they're putting up again, because she's miles of it. And then if we do that here, we just listen to the grazing committee, because then every one side makes the paper and it adds up. And where are we going to get these panels and keep help with the electricity? So I'm thinking all of that, give up good information, so they have the fun to hear about yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, sorry for doing the presentation on it. And good luck to the budget. Yeah. And then I was reading the resolution out here. I'm curious how I'm going to benefit Naatsis'aan. And the Vermont tech is how I'm going to benefit. Thank you. I'll answer your question first and I'll get back to yours. How it will benefit us is really when it comes to what the economic value goes back to the nation and to the region. So, it's kind of still an estimate, but the hope is that it'll result in about $300 million in leases and taxes to the Navajo Nation. And a lot of that comes back to chapters. So if you can increase the size of the tax base that we collect in Winter Rock, it goes out to communities. Every year that's why your sales tax is variable depending on how well the economy did the year before. Tourism is struggling out here. That was one of our biggest tax bases. But if you go to like Page and Lachine, you don't see those Chinese food buses like you used to. There used to be buses going up and down here spending money. They were now for all sales tax. Since COVID, we realized how vulnerable we are with our economies. People need to bring money here for it to stay here. Now, a project like this brings investment too. And so the other part of this that we're thinking that it opens up opportunities for people to build businesses, because we're going to need security companies. We're going to need all kinds of services. And that goes back to the people. For us to train all these employees and bring them in, it's just not effective, it's not efficient. So that's why we have a workforce program that locally.
But taxes, leases, the Navajo Nation, will get a significant lease payment. I'm not sure how they're gonna deal with it in the bureau. But we do know that from some of the leases, it goes back into the region. We have proposed that using some of this benefit should go to the impacted former beneficiaries, NPL, all these territories that were impacted. Because that was a result of energy, that whole issue was because of the Hopi land dispute over Peabody. And when we think about the amount of, when we look at AGS, we just take that little small footprint and think that that's all stuff, but then if you take the fly ash, it's even thousands of acres. Then if you take all the mined out areas that we have up there, it's tens of thousands of acres that it sort of took out all of these places. No matter where you produce the energy, go over to Four Corners and see how that's up. It's I think they're asking for another 50,000 acres to mine on that end. So it does take a lot to power these places, but we can do it strategically. That's the big challenge. Is we have to get areas that don't produce some of the output. So why we look at Kenya is because that uranium in that area makes it to where it's going to be 2,000 years before that radiation is fully expired. That's how long isotopes last. Now you can try to bury it, but there's still natural occurring amounts of it. We've done all these studies around Geiger counters and drones, and we've figured out a way to safely operate a solar farm because you're only there 8 hours a day. You're only there if the sun is out. If the sun's not out or if it's cloudy or whatever, there's no one there. Everything is done kind of automatically, so you have AI and cybersecurity kind of things in place. So people can sit in a safe control room somewhere and they can watch what's going on in this area. You can't build houses in this particular area because the amount of radiation every 7 days, the amount of radiation that's there, it would be like getting an X-ray. So if you live there 24/7 for a year, that's like getting multiple X-rays a year, and over time, that's why we have a lot of folks with health issues. So we have monitoring systems that we can put on our workers to tell when they're reaching an unsafe level, and we set that conservative. So meters, monitors, all of our vehicles, all of our equipment, but we need to find areas like that where you can't put a store there, you can't put an airport there, you can't put a house there, but we can put solar there, and it brings value back to the area. But I also agree, we should be taking some of our prime grazing and putting solar panels on that. That was the whole conversation about NGS, putting a power plant right there. When all of those people are making money from, the lower end of Canyon, from Lake Powell, from Hunter Valley, it's also destroy the integrity of how people are making their livelihood. And so we're trying to find a balance between the need for economic development and revenue. So back to your community question, it's about stabilizing the region. Economics or, you see it, a war popped off on the other side of the world, and all of a sudden we're paying $6 for diesel. What do our leaders have the ability to do about that? Almost nothing, But if we have electric vehicles and we made our own power, we could say, well, they're gonna pay for that, we can do something about it. There are solutions out there, but we gotta be doing the work to get it, But if we sit here and wait for something to happen, it's just gonna constantly get negative over and over again. So that's why, that's why I'm asking for this, but then back to the solar production. My truck outside, I have 2 solar panels, I have 1 big battery and inverter. I have a Starlink on there, I have a refrigerator in the back. I can run a welder with it, I can weld if I can instead of the too. I use it to let me work around the bench, and it comes with me everywhere. I'm never without like internet power because no matter what. Now we took that same thing and we did it with trailers and we did it, now we're doing it on bigger systems. So it has the ability to do what you need. It's just figuring out the right technology to use based on your situation. But I've been doing that 15 years. One final question, Willie. There. I heard about it.
of paying your tax. Whenever by the commission. Those money are paid by the federal government to the states. That have large areas of government feel and that. And my question at that time is, how does this affect the now?
Resolution of
The text portion of it. I didn't really get the answer. It was my idea was to see if we can generate some concept time to a sense where I don't know if trust land can be interpreted as public lands. That if that would give us the door to open the door for assess, I mean, not be eligible for public and lower X monies. Kind of things. That's how I understood. Now you utilizing this, if that is the scenario, then we generate how do we use this money. So as I go through this is one approach to augment areas of economic development and economic development, generations of revenue, and development of profit. So, which is a growth and development concept.
Yeah.
So that's how I understood that. So, am I in the right mind?
That's exactly the challenges. We're not using our tax incentives benefits. We're not even using any incentive like down in Phoenix. The reason why TSMC is building that massive complex is the state of Arizona and that little county district all handles tax incentives to bring but then they said we're going to use some of these taxes for education. We're going to use some of these taxes for regional economic, like they ring-fenced it so that way it made sure that things were going to land in. This is how it's a council. I've heard delegates all ask that question, how does it benefit my community? I advocate to figure out, tell me how, what's a benefit, and we can write it in it. You know, the thing is there's a big general need that we have. We can't solve it all at once, but we can chip away at it, like you're saying, find some places where it can be an advantage. And we can work with the seniors to create tax districts where maybe it only applies to this area, but it's for the benefit of this particular region or these people, you know. That would make sure that it's concentrated too, so it doesn't get diluted. Because one of the issues we have too is we have 110 chapters. And so, you know, you take $1 and divide that up 110 ways, we don't even have streams, you know, anymore. So it's like we got to figure out ways to concentrate wealth so that places can grow and develop like that.
One of the past was the revenue share. One of those was the federal program that was continuing and the now nation received, I don't know how many thousands of dollars they received, but each chapter had received some of the revenue share, which I don't know if I didn't understand at that time.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was. And if we understood more debt finding part at that time, I would have said, use that membership in the in the CD. Yeah, they grow, but in concept, when you're upside down, you can't do that. I know what can.
Real quick,
What is this, compliment you? I don't have a question, but just compliment you after, I got into this, chapter business stuff. I learned a lot, thank you, because I learned a lot going to all these summit, convention, everything. The latest one that we went was Res 2026. And you know what? I found out a lot of our Navajo, again, Navajo, doing business out there in the other states. I guess that is why, and it's hard to get a business here. So they choose to go out and make business all over Scottsdale, New York, and everything. And they're working for the other tribes. They're running business for the other tribes. And it's just amazing. Our well, why they're over there, we are smartest, not indigenous. We're running those areas, we're running in that. And then my nephew started a business and he opened a coffee shop and he calls it the trading post. Verbiage is saying he opened the area because he tried to live here. So I was listening and going to all those conventions, some went to, that's what I learned some very that you stick and that you're sticking with the nations and start this. And then all you can Twitter around and you could put in the casino talking together. Casino, they give it interest. They peso fish and it they give 8% nothing there to their foundation. That's where I found out. I'm residing from a home, joint use area home. I want renovation to my house. Then we should go in a casino, peso, fees, and they keep edge on where renovating and help to change extra. There's a lot. What we did our business that we have on that foundation, we need to meet us. We need to be with it and help our education. Yeah. It comes right to us. Maybe I can get it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. I move on to resolution number 1. Motion. Willie. Second. So. Down to the professor. So moving on to number 1, resolution. Okay, with that, we have a motion, we have resolution number 1. This is the heading for resolution number 1. It's supporting and confirming the appointment in relation to Marshall Gray, I student Black Mesa review board as the Shonto chapter representative for a term of 4 years. We have a motion, we have a second. Comments, questions regarding the resolutions? Like to insert hours. 80. And I don't see that. Yeah. It therefore says, now therefore we resolve. This only it says, appoint representative work for the applicant in the Labyrinth Review Board, County Community Government League, whatever. I think the original language should be the establishment of the review board. Also called for surrounding chapter, which is city control, Shonto, and the region. That's it, it's not fair, I have to, offer that rules that would reflect it. Instead of this time. So you want to just go ahead and put Shonto community governance and then the North region. In there, yeah, okay. You concur, Priscilla? To add that language in there for new business, for now therefore be resolved, number 3. We're gonna add that right after it says Shonto Community Governance Leadership, comma, N.O.S. Regional Council or N.O.S. Region, comma, and relevant navigation entities. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Call for questions being stated. Madam Secretary, go ahead, call for the questions. Call for vote.
I was like, oh, the question. Yeah, me okay, Honorable Herman Daniels Jr., Willie Gray Eyes, Alex Spicini, in favor. Marcia Gray Eyes. How would you like to vote? Robert Black.
Favor, in favor, I'm trying to unmute, so give me
Okay.
a little bit of time. Okay, yeah, in favor.
Thank you. Roland Small Canyon. Oh, is he not here? Tamencia Tracy, how would you like to vote?
In favor.
Twyla Madison in favor. Della Glorieta Black. Priscilla Benali. Jimson and Sydney. Bellard Curley. So that's a total of 9 votes, 0 opposed, and 1 abstain. Oh, what was your name? Oh, yeah, okay. So that'll be a total of 10 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention.
Okay. Resolution number 1 passes. 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstention. Moving on, number 2.
Resolution of the N.O.S.T. Regional N.O.S.T. 2026-094-002, supporting the Painted Desert Power LLC project and the payment in lieu of taxes, PILT NNC number 0014-26 for the benefit of the N.O.S.T. communities and the Navajo Nation.
Motion, Alex. Second. Priscilla. Comments, questions on the resolution? Well, Can I'd like to motion, or I'd like to add in here. Chair would not do that. I'd like to request. Yes, that I would. Well, it's 12, the proceed, the profits shall come to the N.O.S. Regional Council. At least 2%. All right, motion and second. Any other comments, questions? None. Call for the vote. Madam Secretary.
Okay, Willie Gray Eyes, Alex Spitzini, Marcia Gray Eyes,
In favor?
Robert Black,
In favor.
Arlene Laughter,
In favor?
Roland Small Canyon,
Favor.
Tamencia Tracy,
In favor.
Twyla Madison, in favor, Della Curley, abstain, Glorieta Black, Priscilla Benali, Jimson and Ginny. That is 11 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention. What's the resolution?
Resolution number 2 is passed, 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstain. Moving on, number 3.
Resolution of the Regional Council NOST 2026-094-003. Proposed a resolution of the NOST Regional Council approving the endorsement of Jonathan M. Nez for the United States House of Representative Office for Arizona Congressional District 2.
Okay, motion by Willie. Second by Jim. Okay, motion, we have a second. Call, questions, comments, concerns. Call for the question, Madam Secretary. Call for the question. Call for the vote.
Call for the question. Willie Gray Eyes. Alex Fitzini. Marcia Gray Eyes.
In favor?
Robert Black. Arlene Laughter. Roland Small Canyon. Tamencia Tracy.
In favor?
Twyla Madison in favor. Dillard Curley. Stain. Gloria DeBlack. Priscilla Benali. Jim Sinigini. 11 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention.
Okay, resolution number 3 passed, 11 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 abstain. Moving on to announcements. Next NOST meeting is going to be July 11th. And it's up in the chat room, so we will be prepared. Other than that, motions or adjournment. Willie, Jim. Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Those on the call? Unanimous. Okay, time is 1:28 p.m. We have returned. 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 2, 3 abstain. Okay, thank you very much for joining the meeting. Really appreciate you guys for joining. Thank you, Shonto, for hosting, and then we shall see you guys at the next meeting in July. You guys have a wonderful day and safe trip.
Okay, how do I just end it?
Yeah, and the song.